You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
Hey, this is Jesse, and in the future, pear trees will genetically modify themselves to stop overproducing fruit by punching bees.
That was great.
Yeah, I like that.
This is Melanie, and in the future, refrigerator handles will scan your hand and only allow you access to foods appropriate for your individual diet.
Ooh.
Oh,
Insurance
man.
companies are going to make that happen.
I know it.
Oh yeah, that is scary.
Like a good neighbor.
This is Randy. In the future, self-driving cars will lead to self-driving segues. Speaking of segues, how about that intro song? It drives itself.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Yes, it does.
I think I'm so disappointed in myself a bit because I'm the worst at the future predictions. And it's like
Oh.
it's like the thing I was like super excited for.
Yeah. You were like, hey, I got this crazy idea. Let's do it. And then you're like,
Do it.
I don't know what to do.
I need to write them down.
Yeah, I need to make a list because mine aren't funny. I need
They don't
funny.
have to be funny. That was
Oh.
poignant.
I need to bring that. No, it's not. It's horrifying.
Well, yeah. The future is horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terminator.
Skynet.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with anything, and I know it's not part of the podcast, but you remember that story we heard where they made an artificial intelligence and then drove it insane on purpose?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's
Whoa,
really
what?
not what we're supposed to be doing.
No, yeah. What was that story? Actually, I'll probably leave this in because this is pretty interesting.
I don't
Do you
really
remember much about it?
I don't really remember. It was, some university created an artificial intelligence, and then they were like, I wonder if we can drive it insane. And they did.
Like, this is a news story. This isn't like a science fiction story.
No, this
No,
is real life.
It's
Yeah.
science, reality.
Who are these people?
I know.
Let's make a robot and then make it crazy.
Then make it crazy.
Yeah.
And we're never going to survive unless we get a little crazy.
When you started saying that song instantly popped in my mind. Oh, that's great. All right, welcome to the Grawlix Podcast. We have I like that as a segue. Oh,
You didn't even have to lean into it.
no, oh, yeah. We're making this work. We're making it work for us. We have a lot to talk about. And there's
We do. It's like a crazy huge month.
Yeah, massive month.
Mm-hmm.
So massive that I should save this for a segue, but I missed the Batman 75th anniversary, like Batman Day. Like I was aware of it, but I just
Sort of did too, yeah.
it just didn't even register.
I didn't even.
It's Batman's birthday.
Oh.
Right.
It's
Right.
Batman.
We should have got him a cake.
Should have.
See, that's why we need refrigerators to check us.
What kind of cake?
They're like, it's not your birthday.
Oh man.
Batman isn't real.
Refrigerator.
Hush your horrible robotic refrigerator mouth.
Shut your mouth and open your door. I want cake.
For justice and reasons.
Oh man. But Yeah, we'll talk about Batman in a little bit. We read some stuff for that.
Yes.
Which was delightful and a lot shorter than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First off, I guess let's talk about what's new. So we got this convention coming up.
Well, and yeah, like since the last one, we recorded right before Britishfest. Like Britishfest happened.
Yeah,
and it was pretty cool. I mean, you never know how a brand new con's going to be, but it was hopping.
we haven't had a chance really to talk about it since it happened, huh?
Right.
Okay, well, let's talk about Britishfest. You were there all weekend. I was only there for a little bit. I caught a panel, which was pretty cool.
Yes.
Very cool.
It was the only panel that I caught as well.
You were busy.
Because it was so hopping that we really didn't leave the dealer's room. But the dealer's room was pretty awesome.
Well, I only made it there Sunday, and when I got there, and I went up to there's two ladies, and I went up to them and paid them money, and they gave me a name badge or whatever. They were telling me that they had a much larger turnout than they expected, especially for a first-year convention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they said they ran out of, like, the first 2 days, they ran out of name badges, little plastic things on a necklace they put them in. They ran out of that stuff. They just had a whole lot more people. So
yeah, like on the first day they did that. So Saturday is your big day. So they'd already sold out of those.
Yeah, on Friday, right?
On the very first day.
Yeah.
So they were like printing them overnight. Crazy.
So I expect there will be another one. I'm excited to go to that one.
And there should be an update and an announcement on that pretty soon. At least he's been teasing that on the Britishfest Facebook group. So hopefully.
So we went to, when I got there, I met up with you, and we went to the Timey-Whimey Puppet Show panel.
Yes, which was actually the second panel that they did, because the first panel was actually their show,
Mm-hmm.
and then this was more of a behind-the-scenes thing.
Which I didn't realize, and initially I was slightly disappointed, but the behind-the-scenes thing was actually really interesting and pretty amusing anyway, because the guy's pretty funny.
Yeah, well, and he also just he projected, or I guess he had a screen, so he showed some of the clips because he kind of pulled the audience right off the bat and was like, "How many of you saw the show yesterday?" And it wasn't very many, or at least there wasn't much of a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good because he kind of ran the gamut, showing what he did and then talking about it as well.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't go at all, sorry. But I actually got to enjoy the puppet show also because it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
So I've seen actually quite a few of them now.
Quite a few.
You probably have seen more than we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pulled it up and made her watch some of it. One of the things, and this isn't like specifically related to what he does, and offhand I should have took it down in my notes, but I forgot we were going to talk about Britishfest. So I'll get his name and I'll.
It was Mike Horner.
There you go.
How could you forget that name?
Well, but one of the things that I took away that was interesting is this. It's kind of what I always considered like the sculptor's eye, and I'm kind of jealous of it. He was talking about where he'd get the parts to make his puppets, and he'd go to thrift stores and he'd see some random thing like a small toy plastic, like a teapot,
Mm-hmm.
and then he'll flip it over and be like, "Oh, well, the bottom of this would make a great, piece of canine or something, like the canine body." And then he'd have this other thing and he'd be like, "Oh, I could use half of this and this would be a good, whatever." And it's just that ability to like look at some random object and see a little piece of it and be like, "Oh, that would be great as this." Like this, Oh. You still there?
Hello?
Yeah, he's there.
I'm in here 2 times.
Oh, you're in there 2 times.
What? Hey, other me?
Doppelganger. Doppelganger.
Yes. Ah. I can ignore me, but I cannot get rid of me. I am gonna ignore me because weird. I don't know if I should do that. I can permanently block myself, and I really don't want to do that.
Oh.
You were talking about the sculptor's eye, and
yeah, being able to see a shape in something that's not, it's not there, but you can see it. It's going to be there. Painters have the same type of thing where a lot of times they'll sketch out what they want. But with painting, it seems like a lot of times you're laying down layers, knowing later what this like abstract shape will be. Mm-hmm. And
right.
That's something that I envy. And I was really, that was one of the things I took away from the panels when he was like saying, I made this puppet from this, this, and this. And it's just like, I don't have that eye, and I wish I did. I wish I could like look at an object and be like, that'd be a great, Dalek bottom.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he brought that little like watering can, and he was like,
yeah.
and sneak peek, or like kind of teased at it. He's like, he like flipped it upside down, and he was like canine, and I'm like, whoa,
yeah,
and you could see the shape.
After he said it, I was like, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah,
yeah. And actually, on his Facebook page, he just posted some like designs because August is coming around, and so he's already shown some of his sketches for the Capaldi puppet, which he mentioned he would be making, and so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited for Capaldi.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Not to jump past that, but so then you, after that panel, unless you had more you wanted to talk about on that panel, I'm sure there's more we could, but...
Oh, yeah. But like that whole time I was sitting there, like, I want to ask this question. I want to ask that question. I got up the courage to ask one question, but I could have asked like 7.
Well, and we left, and I was like, dude, that panel was for you. I mean, it's Doctor Who and it's puppets. Like,
yes, yeah.
You're probably the one in the audience who like that panel was for you.
I know. I was like, oh no, is he just going to do a show? When he pulled the audience and nobody was like, yeah, we saw the show. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh please, I want to know about the behind the scenes. That's why I saved. I waited until Sunday to see that panel.
Yeah, oh yeah, and it was really interesting.
It was good.
So after that panel, you went back to the table, and I went to go to the next panel, and I waited around, and it was supposed to be a panel with Doctor Who publisher.
Oh yeah, Lars. Yeah,
publisher of Doctor Who books and stuff. And I got in there, and that was the second panel he was supposed to do. I believe he'd done one Saturday, perhaps.
Yes.
And he had left before the panel.
Lars Pearson
was not there.
Yeah, he apparently had left earlier.
Yeah,
something.
He had left before the panel, but which is fine. But there was, and the room wasn't packed, but there were several of us in this room at this point, and we hear some of the organizers behind us kind of talking about, oh, he's gone, blah blah blah, So one guy, and I hope I see him again around at another convention or at the next Britishfest. But one guy's like, well, we could, either, cancel the panel, or we could just do a general Doctor Who panel and just talk about Doctor Who. And everybody's like, yeah, okay, let's do that. So he went up to the front, and he was just, just winging it, and which was cool. And I was into it, and he seemed like a likable guy. And he started going through basically the history of Doctor Who, starting with, the first Doctor and talking about companions and stuff.
Right.
And I was like, okay, this is cool, but this is going to be trouble because I'm only up to the 5th Doctor. And I don't want 6 through 8 spoiled, even though, it's old, it's been out forever, but it's new to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he's going, and I'm into it, and it almost felt like he was making, I don't know, like because I was making a lot of like nods, like, yep, that's how it is. He's saying this. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. So it seemed like he was making eye contact a lot. This guy doing the panel, and he got to the Fifth Doctor. And I was like, uh-oh, what do I do? What do I do? How do I handle this? And he's talking about it, and then he gets to the companions, and then he pulls up a slide, and it's like there's companions on there I hadn't seen, and I was like, oh no, this is emergency zone.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be rude because the guy was being nice, and he like putting myself in his shoes of like, okay, what do I do? There's nobody for this panel, but there's people sitting here, so I'm just going to go up there and sit there and talk at them.
Yeah.
Like, would be kind of mortifying. So I didn't want to be rude and just like get up and leave. So I but I had to get out of there or else I was going to get spoilers. Because I seen, what's his name? Chameleon,
yeah.
And we hadn't got to that yet. And I was like, what's that? What's that robot? What's going on? So I was like, oh, I got to get out of here. What do I do? I don't want to be rude.
He was going to spoil a whole 2 episodes for you.
Well, so we've finally seen him. He's been in 1 episode, and then we've watched several episodes past, and he hasn't been in it again. I'm assuming he'll pop up sometime. But
yeah, I think he's in 2 episods.
Really? That's it?
Pretty. Yeah, because did he talk, like, how much did you hear? Basically, he was logistically hard to do.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
The idea behind him was great, but like in order to actually pull him off, he was not great for the technology of the time.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
They could have, like, looking at him in the episodes we've seen him in, they could have simplified that for themselves too.
Yeah,
because it was a whole Chameleon was a whole like construction. It wasn't necessarily like a dude painted silver,
Yeah, they should have used the little like boop boop like disappearing guys from that guarded the tomb of
the Rastalon, Raston robots or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Those guys are rad.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Except every time he'd like, okay, we're getting sidetracked, but every time he'd jump, he'd like jump and disappear. It was always like this big arms flailing, like, what? And then they, disappear.
Oh, he was like straight out of Power Rangers before there were Power Rangers.
Yeah, he was.
Exactly. Good call.
And I believe he was like a Japanese actor. So that's probably what he was referencing. Not Power Rangers, because it's way before that time, but like Ultraman, that kind of, that era of Japanese television.
Interesting.
So
yes, it is. Makes sense.
Okay, so I had a dilemma. I was so tempted. I was about to raise my hand and be like, I have, just to tell him, the guy doing the panel, I have to leave because you're going to get spoilers. But then that's like drawing attention to myself. So instead, I pulled out my phone to make it look like, oh, suddenly there's something happening on my phone. And I got up and walked out of the room with the phone in my hand so it looked like I had a call coming or something.
Right.
I didn't.
Oh.
I just didn't want to seem rude.
Yeah. Yeah.
So but now the cat's out of the bag. There's my story.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a lot more about Britishfest to talk about Britishfest. What are some highlight moments for you?
Well, I mean, we worked pretty much the whole time through, but yeah, I mean, like the dealer's room. You were in the dealer's room for a little while. It was a pretty hopping joint, and I thought, considering that there was gated entrance, like you had to pay to get in, I was a little worried when we first got there how it was going to go, because it was kind of off. It wasn't like right with the main stuff. You had to go down this hallway, which actually went past the swimming pool, and then it was just this one little room that was kind of out of the way. And so, like, that was my initial trepidation, was that people aren't going to actually come back here. But I couldn't have been more wrong. It was kind of like, once the panels were done, that was one of the places you go. And the only panel that I got to was that one. Was the Timey-Whimey puppet show. And I don't regret it either, because I had several people just stop, and they would look, and they wouldn't necessarily be interested in buying anything. But then come to find out that they had actually done panels, and I got like my own mini private panels, like at least twice throughout the weekend.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I had one gal that sat and talked with me for at least an hour on just the Eighth Doctor and the audio plays, which was really cool because like how often does that happen, and who, how often are you just going to run into somebody randomly that can talk about the Eighth Doctor? Like, you really got to kind of be into it in order to really, seek out the Eighth Doctor, because the majority of his stuff is audio and no video. Yeah. And then there's always been that question of, like, how legit is the Eighth Doctor? Which, with the recent 50th anniversary stuff, that's all, it's obvious. He's canon. It's pretty much all canon. But, for a long time it was like, is he, isn't he? Because he's the American Eighth Doctor. So is he really the Doctor? So
I have yet to watch the TV movie because it's in that period.
Right.
But, so if he's canon, does that mean Eric Roberts is the Master?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Sort of. I mean, like, you can get around it, though. I mean, like, without spoiling it, it's sort of. Sort of the Master. Yes and no. So you'll just have to see it.
Okay. But yeah, that's cool because it is a pretty hardcore fan to be able to dish on the Eighth Doctor audio plays for like an hour, and that's super rare to come across.
Yeah.
At least around here.
And she was doing the Sherlock panel that my wife went to on Sunday, and which we actually crossed paths with Holly. Mm-hmm. She was coming out from that panel as we were going into the puppet panel, and I had found that out in conversing with her. So she, she did panels, and then I ran into this other guy which I wonder, was the guy that did the impromptu panel. Was he kind of an older gentleman?
No, he was kind of a younger guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The other person that stopped and talked to me for another hour, like on a different day, it was like part of me is like, I really need to be working. I got to pay off this table. But on the other hand, it was like really cool because he the first day was the only person that came dressed as the Third Doctor, and so I had to comment on that, and so that got us into this whole conversation about like the classic era, all the spin-offs, like we talked about. There's a whole bunch of spin-offs that, like, the only thing that they have in common with Doctor Who is that they are about this specific thing. Like the Autons have like 3 movies.
Yeah.
Where the only thing about them that is Doctor Who related is the fact that it has. Hello?
Oh no, is there another Jesse?
Is there another? I can still hear you.
The other Jesse left. Okay. I gotcha. Okay. The Autons were the only thing about it that had anything to do with Doctor Who. So, that's just one example. There's tons.
I'm sorry to keep sidetracking. Have you seen those?
I started watching the first Auton movie, and I didn't see it through. But there's a couple, and I wrote them down that I definitely want to track down eventually. Yeah. Because there's one that has several people, like what's Lethbridge Stewart's daughter?
Oh, okay, yeah.
She's in it, or it's like where she's kind of introduced, and it's got the Brigadier, and it's got Sarah Jane, and it's got like a lot of the companions. It's kind of a companion chronicles type of movie. Can't remember what it was called. Man.
Yeah, I want to check those out. I just recently learned about those.
So yeah, that was Britishfest. It was a lot of awesome drawing, and I can only imagine that all the panels were as awesome as the ones we saw. Mm-hmm. Because talking to the people that I did, like those panels had to be awesome too.
Well, yeah, I had to work Friday and Saturday, but in the future, much like the next convention we'll talk about in the future. In the future.
Segways. In the future, Segways.
In the future, Segways will walk you.
2 cons and back.
2 cons and back. There, it'll be the Segway Con.
Wait.
Okay. But I'll try to make sure to get work off for hopefully they'll, we'll get an announcement on another Britishfest, and I'll request those days off well in advance.
Yeah.
But speaking of segues, I'd have all weekend free for OSFest.
Yes.
Not to be confused with OSFest, or apparently there's another OSFest. OS.
Yes, operating system. Is that what it's for?
No,
that's all I can think of.
It's a Donnie and Marie Osmond
convention.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. That would explain why one of my Twitter followers was like, OSFest? And I was like, yeah, it's this one. It's about science fiction.
Yeah, no. I was doing a search for the website. Kid. I was doing a search for the website, and I come across that, and I was like, oh, nope, that's not what I want. But no, this is the Omaha.
No space.
No, yeah. This is the Omaha Science Fiction Education Society Festival. OSFest.
Yeah.
I haven't been to this one either. This will be my first time at it, but it's an established local con. This is its 7th time.
Oh, it's its 7th? Wow.
Yeah, this is OSFest 7, and which made me wonder, like, when do you drop the number and just go with the year?
Yeah.
Like, at what point do you just stop numbering it like that? But yeah. And so I don't know what to expect, but looking at the panels, I think they look pretty interesting. There's a lot of interesting panels on there.
I was having trouble finding. Maybe it's out now. More information on specific panels. I did come across like lists of guests and stuff. There's a lot of science fiction authors and stuff like that, which Melanie's excited for.
Yes, I am.
She likes science fiction books a lot.
Yes. The website is a little bit unusual to navigate. Like, if you click just right on there, I believe it's the events page. That will bring up all the panels for whatever reason.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so,
gotta
I didn't find them in. Yeah. You got to know the code. You're gonna be able to. You speak it in Klingon, and then.
Oh, there are several Klingon panels, aren't there?
Yes, there's
I've seen that.
Klingon Iron Chef and Klingon Jeopardy and
like Klingon cussing and stuff like that.
Yeah. And the gentleman that I talked to that was dressed like Pertwee, he was going to be very active in that. So I found out a lot about. Like, I kept hearing about OSFest throughout the weekend at Britishfest. So I'm pretty optimistic that it's going to be a rad con because people just kept talking about it. So.
And you guys will have a table there again.
Yes.
You and Axon?
Yep. And it's 2 of the ballrooms apparently for the dealers' rooms. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, lots of dealers.
I don't know what that means, but it seems like a good sign.
From a lot of the activity, I follow them on Facebook. From a lot of the activities they've been posting that I've noticed, it seems like it's going to be a pretty sizable convention. They're going to have gaming all weekend. In fact, you could if you wanted just to do like the access to the game room, you could get a pass just for the game room all weekend.
Right.
They're going to do like film festival all weekend, playing like B-grade science fiction movies and different stuff, including the 5-ish Doctors reboot, which I do want to catch. I'm going to try to catch.
Yeah.
I'm excited. So, but yeah, and then all the guests and panels, and it sounds pretty sizable.
Well, and one of the things that, if there was a criticism about Britishfest, it was the pricing for kids. The one thing that I'm like super impressed about with OSFest is first of all, the pricing for kids it's like $15 for the entire weekend for kids.
Oh yeah.
which is pretty. Yeah, I mean, it's still going to be pricey if you have a big family. But then on top of that, they also have was it Seeking Sitters? They actually they have a daycare that's going to be with certified trained staff members. So
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if other conventions or anything do that, but I was really impressed with that. I hadn't heard of something like that.
Yeah.
It's super convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, kids want to go and see cool things, but are they really going to want to sit through a panel,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for it. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I've got all those days off. We got the weekend pass. We'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I'm going to try to harass some people. Hopefully I can get some audio recordings and pictures and whatnot, and we can either throw those... I'd like to do interviews. I want to do some interviews with people at the convention, and then we could I'd like to either compile that into like a special Grawlix episode, or maybe...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or we could put that, depending how much actual like material I get, or we could put that in the next episode, but I definitely like to get some type of material, because I'm sure there's going to be a ton of interesting people to talk to there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited.
Me too.
Oh, and I have their website. I took some notes. I usually don't. I took some notes. This is what I did instead of coming up with a future prediction. Their website is it's OSFES.org, OSFest.org. And they're a non-profit organization. I thought that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're the Omaha Science Fiction Education Society, is that right?
Yep.
That's what OSFest,
Drop
without
the
the
T.
T, stands for.
Yeah, exactly.
The T is silent, people.
It's silent.
Wait, no.
It's so silent, it's not there.
Yeah, invisible silent T.
For our main topics, we're going to talk a little bit about Batman, and then we also have a bunch of Doctor Who. And really, I mean, I don't know if I can say we have regular listeners. If we do, I don't know how into Doctor Who they are, but I figure a big chunk of what we're going to talk about is the Doctor Who comics, so totally relevant. And this will be the last Grawlix podcast before the new Doctor Who series starts on the 23rd of August.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Right.
super pumped for that, so I figure we got to have a Doctor Who special.
Yeah.
So
Can I address really quickly,
you can address whatever you want.
because it was what I voted for, that we are
yeah.
delaying the Duncan the Wonder Dog for another episode.
Yeah, we're gonna rain check Duncan the Wonder Dog till the next regular episode. Our poll list, as is our right to do. Way back, way back in episode 1.
We just got all defensive about it. Like, hey, listeners.
I'm just gonna
I know you
curtail.
had your heart set on this, but we reserve the right to refuse you.
Way back in
with our
episode 1,
words.
we give ourselves that right.
Yes.
Just gonna curtail it right now.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. This is not a democracy, people. Even though you vote for things.
You can vote for it. Just don't gonna say when.
Yeah.
No.
Kind of like the Electoral College. If you live in a red state and you voted for a blue candidate, well, tough luck.
So, I mean, when it comes down to it, those two people that voted for Duncan the Wonder Dog, one of which might have been Melanie.
Might have been.
You two people are out of luck. I'm sorry. No, we got super busy. We actually did find... How is it broken up? It's like show 1, show 2, stuff like that?
That's what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a pricey book. And so I was like looking for it, and then found that show 1 is available. It's like over 40 pages long, and it's free and available on the site. And of course I found that like last night.
Yeah, we didn't find that
Which
too.
did us no good, but
So it's a combination of we couldn't easily find it. We were gonna order it, and then we discovered it's free. But we just really, it comes down to we just haven't had the time for it yet. But we're not vetoing that. We're just going to rain check it. So
Yes. It's still next.
It's still next.
Yeah. So the other person who voted for it, if you were expecting it this time, well, you'll just have to stay a listener for one episode longer at least.
Yeah. Okay, suddenly I feel like maybe our attitude was not justified. No, yeah. So sorry if anybody was super excited to hear us talk about that. We will talk about it next time. But we had that right.
Wow.
And then, thanks for bringing that up. I almost forgot. Mm-hmm. And then we're in between swamp studies. So, as it would have usually been, swamp studies is next episode. I don't know if anybody's excited for those, except for me.
Me too.
Okay. So we'll be talking about Saga of the Swamp Thing, Book 3. Do you have Book 3 yet, Jesse?
Not yet.
Okay. I'll help you. I'll help you. I actually, that's the one. I do have the hardcover of that. It's good.
Nice.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that next episode. But this episode, let's get back to what we're talking about.
Yes, sorry.
No more Swaga. Swaga the Swamp Thing. I guess we should talk about Batman. We'll talk about
Let's talk about Batman.
Batman.
He's really old.
He's an old guy. He's a pretty old guy. He's been around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As I'm sure anybody who's following comics knows, it's the 75th anniversary was this month, or last month, I guess, when you're listening to this. And they, tried to they made a deal of it. They had a Batman Day.
Yeah.
And
when Comixology released all those free downloads, or not downloads, but free issues on their site of like the first Batmans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had the very first Batman story, the Bat-Man story, from Detective Comics number 27. Was that in 1937, or is that just when the Detective Comics started? Because I know Batman got his own series in, I think, 1940.
Huh.
I just can't remember what year that story actually came out. Anyway, and then they also had available the Detective Comics number 27 special edition that you could download, and I got it. If you went to the comic store on that day, they were giving out the physical copies for free too, and that
right, yeah.
And that actually also contained the original Detective Comics Volume 1 story. Mm-hmm. And then it had that retelling and also that short story, like that future Batman short story by Scott Snyder. And all those, they had run in the New 52 number 27, and then they also like had some other stories and stuff. But this was just boiled down to like, kind of where Batman came from, and then kind of a, where Batman could possibly go type story. Mm-hmm. So I thought it'd be cool if we read the original and the retelling and just kind of discuss those a little bit. And at one point, I had read the original many years ago, but it'd been a long time, and I'd forgotten a lot about it, including a couple things that I got a reaction from me, and then Melanie read it. Melanie read it last night, and she got a reaction from different things, but her first reaction really cracked me up because she's reading it, and all of a sudden she just goes, "What?" She just like exclaims.
Well, it was ridiculousness. What it was where.
This is the beginning. It's kind of this is like the beginning of the story. So go ahead.
Yeah. Commissioner Gordon is with Bruce Wayne at some social function or other, and they're talking about things being boring. I don't know. And then Commissioner Gordon gets a call or something, and he's like, "Oh, there was a homicide. That's interesting. Do you want to come with me, Bruce Wayne?" And I'm like, In what world would this happen? That's
Yeah. First of all, come visit the crime scene with me.
yes, exactly.
There was a murder. Hey, civilian.
This is an interesting murder. Come along.
Come tramps through a crime scene with me.
Yeah, I was like,
You seem trustworthy, Mr. Wayne.
yeah, I was like, what is this?
Would you like to see some impalement?
It's like, if this is how things were in the 30s, then no wonder crimes never got solved.
No, yeah, it.
And then Bruce Wayne's just like, why, yes, I will come along.
Yeah.
I have nothing else to do. Why not?
Oh,
And it's so funny because that is the attitude it was. It's like, well, sure, why not? Sounds interesting. Sounds fun.
yeah. Oh,
Sounds fun.
That was like, I knew it was old, and reading it, I knew there was going to be like, because really old comics, it's just, the story was, I don't want to say basic, but yeah, it's more basic storytelling, and there's a lot of cliche things in there.
Well, and it's only like 6 pages, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty short story.
yeah.
One part that amused me was, so they're at this crime scene, and they play the whole, like, well, the knife has this guy's prints on, his son's prints on it, he found him, and blah, 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 he's the murder suspect, and the guy's like, I just found the body and pulled the knife out of his back, and it's just like that thing of, like, it seems that was, like, the wrong man type thing that they'd always pull back in the day, where it's like, you know, yeah, caught red-handed because you find somebody with a knife in their back and you pull it out. That's just seemed very cliche.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Or like I show up to work on Monday, pulling a knife out.
It just happens.
I mean, come on, you know, like if you blamed everybody that happened to pull a knife out of somebody's back, I mean, can you imagine clogging up our judicial system with that?
They have better things to do, like hang out with rich socialites.
They have better things to do.
Oh, yeah,
like arguing about Hobby Lobby.
One thing that really got me, and when I read it, I sent a message to Jesse about it, was, so towards the end of the story, Batman's shown up. Oh, you got to talk about where Bruce Wayne's like, ho-hum, but...
He does, he literally says that.
I know.
He's a ho-hum, well, this is boring, I'm going to leave the crime scene, you know.
Yeah. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Oh, surely not enough action here.
yeah. What really got me was Batman's figured out what's going on, and he's fought the bad guys, and we're down to one bad guy, and it's the bad guy goes to run, and he falls over into a vat of acid. And what really got me was what Batman says. He's like, fitting in for his kind. And I'm like, the dude just died in a vat of acid. And it just didn't seem very Batman-like to me at all.
Yeah.
I think Melanie disagreed with me, though.
I did.
She thinks that's Batman.
Well, I think Batman has a hate for criminals, and he's not going to kill them. But when they die, he's not going to go out of his way to be like, "Oh no!" He's going to be like, have some smart aleck comment about, well, that's what a life of crime leads to. It seems totally in character for him to me.
Well,
I mean, in the 30s sense, that's not, he didn't do a very good job of it, but
I mean, at this point, this is the first Batman story. There is no, like, in character for him. That's the character. But, like, given what he became, even shortly after that, it just struck me as so odd. It's just like, okay, Batman's not the warm, fuzziest character, but it seems odd that, like, the guy literally just died in acid. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a, like, cavalier, almost, like, vindictive, fitting in for his kind. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, if the guy had died, like, ironically, somehow, like, he got mugged or something, or, I don't know. Even that, actually, that wouldn't even work for Batman, because Batman would be like, oh, my parents.
Yeah. If he would have had some kind of humorous pun spin to it, then it would have been okay, I bet, for you. Yeah, exactly.
No, that wouldn't have seemed right.
We would have had an Adam West ending where he looks at Robin and is like, "Yeah, well, that's the end of that."
Yeah.
How about wait, I got one. It's formulating. How about something about base characters? Basically, yeah, okay. It just seemed really harsh. It just seemed really harsh to me.
What I did, my comment on it was, well, you're like, so he basically created the Joker with his crappy attitude and karma.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that?
Well, I've seen that one coming.
I was wondering about that. I was curious if that was supposed to be.
I kind of wanted to go and find the first origin story of Joker after that.
Uh-huh.
Because jumping to the retelling, real quick, I have some notes on this. So the original story was written by Bill Finger, with art by Bob Kane. Now, the New 52 Detective Comics number 27 had this pretty cool, I thought it was cool anyway, retelling of that story, written by Brad Meltzer. I'm terrible with names, but Brad Meltzer.
Yeah, and he wrote Identity Crisis.
Oh, nice, okay.
Yeah.
And art by Brian Hitch. The art was good. It's like good, clean comic book Batman art. With the retelling, they did an interesting thing where, it's very different but similar. And the guy goes over into the vat, and then at the end, it's got the hand on the edge. And it says the end or whatever. So, there's the creation of a villain. I don't know if the idea was that was the Joker or just a villain.
Well, I had been curious if it was because the Joker origin story is basically that he fell in a vat of stuff at the same companies.
Well, yeah, no, I think in the retelling they made it Ace. In the original, it wasn't Ace Chemical. It was something similar though. Semantics.
Yeah. Well, I read the second one first long ago.
Oh yeah.
So that's what kind of in my mind when I was thinking about it or reading the original. But I was confused because, and I have read Batman way out of order, and I'm like, this is the Joker origin story, except he didn't have on a red hood. So is it supposed to be the Joker, or is it just some random guy that suffered a very similar fate?
Yeah.
I'm very badly burned.
But it is kind of the proto Joker origin story. One other thing about the original, the reveal that Bruce Wayne is Batman, although there's like very limited characters in this little story, so it's probably going to be the guy who makes no sense being there at all. The reveal I thought was disappointing in that, like, so you're back at Bruce Wayne's place, and then the last panel is just like Batman comes through the door. But I'm just like, that's not like a very cinematic or
Come on, pyrotechnics, people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like it just looked weird, Batman in that like setting. I mean, I know we see Batman everywhere, but
Yeah, we didn't even get a cave in the very first one.
Yeah, there's no cave. It's
There's
just him
no
standing
Alfred.
outside in the study. Yeah, there's no Alfred. But there was Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, but he looked old.
He did look old. He was like, I'm curious when Gordon turned into like the Gordon we know now, because after a certain point, it's very standard. Gordon, like Bruce Wayne, even looks more different from artist to artist and over the years.
Is he wearing like a bowler? They have like a jaunty hat.
Gordon,
Wayne.
I thought it was like a fedora, but it might have been like a bowler, jaunty hat. It's not a jaunty hat, sir.
A jaunty hat.
Yeah. But
let's away on my penny farthing.
Wow. Nice.
That was the 30s.
Nicely done. Nice.
Robin, to the penny farthing.
Nice old-timey vernacular pull. Well, what did you think? What did you think of these two stories, Jesse? I kind of feel like I've been monopolizing the conversation.
No, they were good. Interesting seeing Batman with the hyphen, and he had like a Moira pattern on him, like that kind of flattens out his form a little bit. But that's a pretty common way to, because comics were, they were basically 3-color prints at that time, and so one way to get texture and some gradation was to apply a Moira screen or pattern to him, and so like his costume had that Moira pattern, which gave him that gray look, which was interesting because I guess I had forgotten that he had that. You see that a lot in like newspaper comic strips, or at least you did, and so it was interesting to see it on this too. I also like how kind of loyal. I don't know if loyal is the word, but they were pretty dedicated to a retelling that was pretty spot on to the original, even in the modern version. Like they were pretty careful, which is cool.
Yeah, I liked to touch on how Batman looked in the first story. I liked the old look of it's kind of rough in his proportions. Like, that's one thing. I was looking at, like, Batman's proportions compared to the other characters on the page. And I don't know if it's just because of the costume. Maybe they were, like, not used to drawing something like that. But his proportions and stuff were really weird and kind of off.
Yeah.
But I kind of liked it. I liked the look of old Batman, where the ears are almost, like, flared out. It's almost like Wolverine
actual bat
ears.
ears. Yeah.
The way they draw his cape, I liked, but his positions and proportions were a little odd. I mean, I'm not.
There was one panel in particular where he's like grabbing the guy who's about to swing or something, and I thought, did they draw his hand wrong? And I had to like really study the panel, and it was like, no, they drew it right. It just was kind of strange how the angles were.
Yeah, awkward positioning and stuff like that. And then comparing the old to the new story, I liked, because I had read the new story more recently, but I liked going back and reading the original and then the retelling, like, just after. I liked that they were pretty faithful to the story. I mean, they did away with the weirdness of, like, hey, Bruce Wayne, want to come check out this murder?
Yeah.
And they kind of replaced that with, it's the same scenario. You got Gordon and Bruce Wayne and a shindig, or, some type of socialite setting. And they kind of replaced that with, like, this cool inner monologue about him, why else would he invite all the police to his house if he wasn't going to bug them and all this and that, I thought that was cool. I mean, that's definitely a modern Batman thing to do. And I enjoyed the inner monologue throughout. There's a couple lines that I thought were a little cheesy, and then a couple lines that I thought were a little bold that you don't usually hear. You don't hear it because it's supposed to be a thought, but you hear Batman say, you know what I mean?
He secretly enjoys it.
Yeah, that he secretly because he enjoys hearing them scream, and then because he secretly enjoys the thrill of it. And then even the bit about he does it to make his father proud and to make his mother stop screaming and stuff like that. Yeah. Just, Batman, the comics do get kind of hard edged sometimes, but there's certainly some lines in there I was like, whoa, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, I especially appreciated it reading the old one, because it's like, the first one's like, oh, here's this character, and then this is like, here's this character, from the original story, but these are his motivations, why the story even exists, And I appreciate that. For all things nerdy, visit the Grawlix Podcast YouTube channel at youtube.com/Grawlix Podcast. There are new videos every week. Get the scoop on current headlines with Comic News Roundup, hosted by Animated Randall and Melanie. Listen to full podcast reruns with chapter skips to jump right to the stories that interest you, and access to the all-new and amazing shows that try to pop out of our brains and into your eye holes. That's youtube.com/Grawlix Podcast.
the webcomic that I'm going to talk about today is Lunarbaboon, and Lunarbaboon, it's lunarbaboon.com, and it's LUNARBABUOON, can't spell, .com. Don't spell in there, or can't spell. Yeah, I'm winning this one.
No, you're doing good. You're doing good. You're winning this.
Have you guys seen or read any of Lunarbaboon?
No.
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I cannot place it right now.
He's super pro. He's one of those comic artists that, like, online, will talk about how he just kind of nails it every time. Like, a lot of times it's funny, and a lot of times it's kind of poignant. You know, it has what the kids today are calling the feels. And it's kind of a really simple cartoony style, and it involves basically a father, kind of, you know, like, that's the majority of it is kind of like fatherly kind of things, but it pulls in a lot of, like, Star Wars and Star Trek references, and like comments on pizza and imagination, and
Pizza.
it's kind of it's a tricky one to explain. It's mostly black and white grayscales, but then he'll once in a while he'll throw in some colors just as accents, and then sometimes he'll do, like, full color panels, which make those full color panels seem that much more eclectic and imaginative, because oftentimes he'll use the full color panels to describe some imaginary place.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it was black and white, actually. I believe I had seen it, because when you said that, I wasn't sure, but I pictured black and white grayscale style strip, so...
It's kind of like a slice of life type of strip, but it changes a lot. It's not always a 4-panel gag type of strip. Sometimes, you know, he really plays with the format. Sometimes he'll have full-on borders like you expect on certain panels, and then sometimes he'll go completely borderless. And a lot of the themes that he plays with are like I said, like fatherhood and being a kid and that growing up kind of thing, and also like the family dynamic between husband and wife, and so, like, you've seen a lot of those kinds of comics in newspapers for a long time, but the way that he approaches it is very. It's not like, you know, like some of those old strips that you'd see in the paper are kind of dated, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, there's some universal things, but you know, you can only do so many jokes about like Dagwood and Blondie and you didn't make me a sandwich, or I'm Dagwood and I'm tired and I'm lazy and I need a sandwich. You know.
Yeah.
So that's not the kind of thing that's going on here. This is more what you can kind of relate to as a modern person and as a modern, you know, like, parent, I imagine. And you know, like, everybody that I show this comic to that has kids, they're just like, oh my God, he can see inside of my brain. Now, I should say, for, you know, like, Grawlix listeners, we keep it clean, and this comic generally does, but not always. So, I mean, like, there's, you know, like any kind of real situation, there's, when it's appropriate, there's some adult humor, adult language in there. I have, like, favorite strips as I go through his archives. Like, the one that I have on my screen right now, they're looking at anthills, and they're using a magnifying glass to go ahead and, like, light these ants on fire, the father and the son. And then in the second panel, there's the onlooker that's like, you two should be ashamed of yourselves. And then they have their moment of confusion, like, looking at each other, and it was like, all right, aim for the next one. You think that they're starting these ants on fire, but what they're actually doing is they're lighting candles on a birthday cake for these ants who are having a birthday party.
Oh,
Aw.
yeah, I like that.
Right. So it's got like, it can be funny, it can be kind of cute and poignant. And then you follow it up with the next one that's on my screen, and it's like kids help us notice the little things in life, and it's the son, and he notices this butterfly, and then he's gonna go catch it, and then he finds out, oh no, that butterfly is actually a tattoo on this dude's back, like this. So, Axton and I in particular, we always talk about how he just does incredible things with the sight gags, and I don't think he has a bad strip in here. I mean, I think you can kind of go through his archives and each one hits on something, whether it's just kind of an honest like self-doubt kind of moment or like a really cool creative visual representation of something. If you haven't read Lunarbaboon, it should be the next thing you do.
It will be.
Yes.
Oh.
Our phone's ringing. I'm gonna let it go.
Let the answering machine get it. I want a sandwich.
A sandwich?
I'm just hungry, that's all.
She did laugh at pizza. She just got food on it.
Pizza is like a running gag in there. Like it's the dad's favorite food. And like, yeah, I don't know. It's funny.
Yeah. Food.
It's a good one. Pizza's funny.
Pizza is a funny food.
I was gonna say, it always seems like in comic books, or strips, whichever, or not that I've read all of that, many that have food obsessions, but it seems like they're all about Italian, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Like you go back to Jim Davis and Garfield, and it's like, well, lasagna, it must be Monday. Yeah. Let's push Odie off the table and eat some lasagna right after my nap.
Wow, you just nailed years of Garfield.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I loved it too. Like I loved Garfield. So
Who does
crazy?
I think that, like, growing up, the newspaper, I didn't read the newspaper, I read the comics, and that was one of the main ones that I would look for was Garfield.
The kids will come over, your niece and nephew, and watch modern Garfield things.
Yeah,
It really bothers me.
I don't particularly care for it.
Yeah, it really bothers me what Garfield is now. Like in like the television medium.
Yeah.
I respect what Jim Davis was able to do. He kind of made his own little Disney, but at the same time, it's weird because it's like its own huge media company now, and not what I think of as a comic strip anymore.
Well, and I'm sure people probably have beef with this even, but speaking of like the cartoons, it seemed like, was it 90s? Was it 90s,
I think so,
Garfield and Friends?
Garfield and Friends, yeah.
It seemed like that at least felt closer to the attitude of the comic strip. But now, like, they've got, like, weird Fantasyland scenarios where John's, like, king of this kingdom and all this. It was just really wild what they were watching, and I was like, this... It just didn't seem right, but
kind of like what they did with the Smurfs towards the end, where it was like, okay, we can't keep telling stories in the normal Smurf universe, which is awesomely fantastic. We've got to like send them back in time or something.
Yeah, I imagine, and it's probably a matter of like, well, how many times can we go to this well?
Sure.
So they try to think of other things to do. I just didn't really, I don't like it when those other things they choose to do in and of themselves seem, for one, out of character with the source material, and for two, cliche already anyway,
Yeah.
But
rebooting things is hard. Like, they announced that they were going to do a new Snoopy thing for Thanksgiving. Yeah, they did like a new Snoopy cartoon for Thanksgiving, and it was done okay though. Like I was surprised that they were going to do it, and then I saw it and it was like, oh, it's kind of like it's like they're narrating and they're there, but they're basically doing like a historical type of, like, I don't know, like Snoopy characters telling you the story of the Pilgrims kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
And in that context, it was like, oh, that's okay. That wasn't so bad.
That's kind of and it's not necessarily a bad thing. That's a safe way to go about it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say easy out, but that's not really what I meant. It's a safe way.
Right. As long as it's done with reverence, like I'm okay with it. But sometimes it feels like it's done with reverence, and sometimes it feels like it's done because we need more money.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to reboot it for the kids, kind of thing. And it's like, well, if it was good in the first place, then why do we need to restart it?
Yeah, I agree. That's a conversation we've had many times.
Yep.
And we will have it many more times because it never ends. They keep doing it.
Circling back on it.
Well, and it's not your fault though. They keep doing it. They keep making us have this conversation.
Well, I think people think that kids aren't going to be interested in older things, but that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, so maybe there may be maybe with some movies, it really would be so old that it wouldn't.
Yeah, because they'll get that thing where if it looks so old,
right? But with
I'm sorry. Keep that thought. I was gonna say your nephew Gabe was over one day, and I put the classic Batman series on from the '60s, and he goes, this looks old. What is this from the '80s? And I was like, no, I'm from the '80s. This is much older.
Right.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Well, now I got two things. Not only that, but what was it? Was it the Joker or somebody? He's like, he looks like a drug dealer.
Yeah.
I love that too. But no. Okay, so with movies and I suppose TV shows, they'll see, oh, it's old and might not want to watch it, maybe. But sometimes even then they'll want to watch it. But with animation, I think I say animate, like animated movies and drawings and like comic strips and whatnot. That doesn't really work the same. It doesn't really get old the way.
Yeah, well, like with live action things, for example, even the look of the film stock, but more importantly, like of fashions, clothes and stuff like that. Like you make something, and then within a couple of years, instantly it's dated. It's just the way it is.
Right.
But with animation, it's usually not so bad that way. Like usually it's not as keyed into like fashion trends. It's just kind of generic. Here's clothes. Sometimes it is, but you get away with it because it doesn't age the same way. I think it ages much slower, and if it's done right, it's almost timeless.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say there's a lot of things that I've had the kids watch or at least expose them to a little bit that they were into, that were things that were old when I was young, but I really enjoyed, and it doesn't. Yeah. They can't look at it and go, oh, this is old. They just watch it and they're like, oh, this is good, as they should.
Yeah. Like when there's some cartoons that don't hold up as well as we remember them. But like I had a duplicate disc of Thundercats and of the original Thundercat series, and I sent it back with my nieces and nephews, and they really enjoyed it, and they were interested in seeing more of it. And then shortly thereafter they rebooted the whole thing. So
yeah.
I haven't actually watched much of I knew that they rebooted it. I haven't really watched it, but Thundercats was my thing. I was Chitara 3 Halloweens in a row.
And is that show still going? or did it run its course?
I don't know. I never watched it to.
Yeah,
I watched like the first disc because a friend lent it to me, and it was pretty good. It was different, but it was interesting. And the original voice of Lion-O voiced Lion-O's dad in this one, and Lion-O's much younger. You know, like there seems to be that situation where it's like, in order to make it more relevant to the kids, we're going to make our main character more of a kid.
Yeah, yeah, it drives me nuts. Maybe it works. I mean, obviously, they've done all kinds of market testing and this and that, but and it's not intended for me because I'm an adult. But as an adult viewer, it drives me nuts.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
A lot of cartoons nowadays drive me nuts because most of them are just whatever random plot. They don't really have any substance, and it drives me crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This was a really long.
I don't know that it's your fault. I liked it. I thought that was an interesting conversation out of nowhere. I liked it. I don't even know how it started. Garfield.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how we got there either.
Italian food. Pizza. It's all pizza's fault.
Oh, wow, you tracked it back.
It all comes back to pizza.
See? Pizza's just inspirational.
And that is like webcomics.
Yeah, there we go. Segway drives you.
Yeah, I feel like if I were on a Segway, I would probably wind up going in circles, and I think that's how I also converse with people, in circles.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
You just spin cookies on a Segway. Is that even possible?
I don't know. Probably just you could probably take some wicked tight turns. I don't know if it'd be quite like spinning cookies, but
really
you could probably go in a circle.
You lean forward really far.
Yeah. All right.
There's got to be a story behind the Segway's name, doesn't there?
Yeah.
What's up with that name? It's such a weird name for a thing that
maybe it's
gets
because
you places.
it's like a segue between walking and riding something.
Automobiling.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Huh.
I don't know. Okay. Ironically enough, the Segway killed our Segway.
It did.
Do we want to talk about Doctor Who?
Yes.
Indeed.
Are you ready to move there? You ready to go there?
I'm ready to go there. Let's go.
Where do we start?
Okay, so, we can go two ways. Melanie didn't because I watched it without her, but I recently rewatched the 50th anniversary special.
Mm-hmm. But I remember it. It's not like I can't discuss it.
No, I know. You were a little upset that I watched it without you.
Well, I'll get over it.
We did, however, recently watch, and I know we didn't discuss this with you, Jesse, but The Five Doctors. We recently watched that. I mean, so if we want to go there, we can go there.
Yeah.
That's what I have for live-action Doctor Who. And then we also have comics, which is the new series of comics from Titan Comics, and The Girl Who Loved Doctor Who, the IDW 2013 special, which is just kind of, not that we've been putting it off, but it's just something we've been holding on our back burner for a while. So we can go any or all of those places. Where do you guys want to start?
How would we approach the new stuff? Because it's so new, I don't know if we want to spoil it.
That's a good point. We generally tend to spoil everything we talk about.
Yeah, because we gotta.
No, we don't. We can just talk about it vaguely. We don't necessarily have to get into specifics. What was going through my head basically was just kind of my initial impressions, and then kind of a comparison between the two, which isn't necessarily fair, but I don't think it's unfair either.
Sure.
We're talking about the
Doctor Who, the 10th Doctor, and the 11th Doctor,
okay.
number 1.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, the new Titan Yeah.
And I suppose we don't necessarily. We should talk about them a smidge, but they're relatively new, so it'd probably be good to talk about them anyway, just so people are informed that they exist and can go and get them.
Yeah, because as with Titan Comics, I've noticed at least, if you're into Doctor Who and you've been searching out those comics, I'm sure you've found out about it. But I found, like, ordering them on the usual websites, since Titan Comics is a smaller independent press,
right?
They're not like when you get on there, you've got the DC Comics and then the Marvel Comics and then the IDW and blah blah blah, Dark Horse, all that, and then a lot of websites tend to group all the other publishers together. And I actually had to search out these comics to order them online because they weren't readily there. They were wedged in with about 2,000 other titles that you have to look through.
Right, and that was actually why I was suggesting it, because I know that I've been with you when you were complaining about that, and I've seen how it works, and I knew that was a smaller one. That's why I was suggesting we...
Yeah, no, good call.
Bring
that we talk about it so people are aware.
Yes.
All right, well...
And they've done a lot of variant covers for these. And like, I ordered the blank ones because I was like, hey, I'm going to do a sketch cover for cons and stuff, and those wound up being back ordered, which was like, wow. So there must be a decent amount of demand.
Well,
despite the fact that they're kind of obscure.
Anything Doctor Who, you would imagine, is going to have a pretty good following to begin with. But
I'm really surprised the blank variant was back ordered, though.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised too.
Really?
But they don't. A lot of times they'll do the blank covers for like the number ones, and so I think that the people that are really into those are probably watching for them. And I wonder if maybe the retail stores don't get first dibs on those.
I guess it would also kind of make sense, because a lot of times, like, I know people pick up the blank covers so that they can take it to a convention and have somebody sign it.
That was exactly what I was thinking.
Doctor Who has a piece of every convention. You got a comic book convention, sci-fi convention, British convention, Doctor Who, there's going to be a Doctor Who somebody at all of them.
Right, that's why I was thinking when you said, why, blank cover, I'm like, no, blank cover would be perfect, because, you could take it anywhere and have
find somebody relevant,
a bunch of people that could sign it and would still make it more valuable, or at least more sentimental.
Sure, yeah.
Well, and
because you could get Matt Smith to sign it, you could get the artist to sign it, you could get the writer to sign it, you could get just about anybody to sign it, really.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
The third grip that worked on episode 3 of
that's for the real completionist.
But I liked your idea, because you do a lot of sketch cards for the shows you go to, and you're a big Doctor Who fan, so you do a lot of Doctor Who sketches. When you said you wanted to pick one up and do a sketch on it to sell, or to for shows or whatever, that's a great idea.
It is. I wouldn't have thought of that, but then again, I'm not an artist. So.
Well, it's a good portfolio piece. It's kind of a, it's a bigger piece than like the sketch cards, because the sketch cards are basically like trading card size. So you get to see a lot of little things, but there's things you can do on a little picture plane that you can't do on bigger picture planes, and vice versa. And so it becomes kind of a nice showcase item of, oh, here's something I can do, kind of thing. And the first one that I ever did was My Little Pony. So I'm kind of hoping to do something a little more my speed. Not that wasn't rad, but
people love My Little Pony, man.
That's so wild.
They do. They do. I sold an awful lot of My Little Pony prints. That's for sure.
Okay, so did you end up getting any issues?
I did. No, I got the core. Was it like the main cover? I had ordered 2. I had ordered a blank copy of each and the main cover of each.
I looked through the variants when I placed my order, and I actually really like the covers, the regular covers to both. Offhand, I should know who did it, but I don't. But like, I really like
Zhang or something was the name of the artist.
I like
the
that
cover
name.
artist. Yeah,
they're really good though. The it's got a kind of a paint. It's like painted,
Mm-hmm.
And the colors. It's got vibrant colors. I really like the covers.
yeah, they did a good job on the covers, and that same artist I think did a couple different covers. There's one where they've got David Tennant kind of looking up, and I thought that was a pretty awesome cover too.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't get the core cover, I would have liked that one.
Okay, so these are Doctor Who, the 10th Doctor #1, and Doctor Who, the 11th Doctor #1 from Titan Comics. They're the first Doctor Who issues to come out from Titan since the license went from IDW last year. Titan picked it up. Something kind of interesting I thought about that was Doctor Who magazine has basically the Doctor Who in print monopoly in over in the UK.
Uh-huh.
Titan Comics is a UK-based company, so if you're in the UK and you want a Doctor Who comic book, one of these series, what you have to do
That's right.
is
Yeah.
import it from America. So basically, Titan creates these comics in the UK, ships them to America. If you're in the UK, you have to have it shipped back to you. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's weird that that's how it always goes with the big property rights, but it's weird how that works. The 10th Doctor #1 was written by, I'm terrible with names, Nick Abadzis? Abzid? It's Abadzis.
Abadzis?
Yeah. And the
Perhaps.
art was by Elena Casagrande with Michelle Pasta.
Pasta.
You're hungry, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
She's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it. She's trying to be so quiet. She's making herself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich right now.
Whoa.
But you can do that since we are now located we're recording in the dining room. It's so nice to get out of that.
Spacious.
Nice,
Yeah, it's nice to get out of the computer is in the computer room, little closet area, the dungeon box.
It is referred to on the lease as it's referred to
Is
as
it
like
a walk-in closet?
Originally when I moved in it was a storage closet, but then they changed in the later leases to it's not office, it's like there's another
Reading nook.
there's like
A fancy word.
a fancy word for a small room. So
I mean, I call it the studio or the office, but I feel funny calling it that because it really is just a walk-in closet.
well, it's bigger than
It's a good size.
yeah. It's not big enough to actually be a room, but it's larger than any other closet I've ever had, I'll tell you that.
Point is,
It's larger on the inside.
it is.
It is.
Thank you.
We have a TARDIS room.
So moving. That reminds me, the Doctor Who, the 11th Doctor, #1, was written by Al Ewing. Ewing.
Ewing.
Thank you. Wow, I should know this type stuff. It was written by Al Ewing and Rob Williams, and the art was by Simon Fraser. See, Simon Fraser. That's a name I can get behind. Simple.
Now watch, it's going to be like Frazier or something.
Yeah, probably. Darn it. Oh, I feel bad for starting all these. So, what do you guys think? If you want, you can pick one, or you want to talk about both of them. But what do you guys think of these?
I kind of went out of order. I thought that was kind of interesting how I approached it because I was super excited to read the 11th Doctor, so I started there.
Actually, I read the 11th Doctor first also. I don't know if I was supposed
That's
to,
interesting.
but I did.
Well, it doesn't. They're two separate series, so at this point there's no connection between the two, so it's whichever you want to read. But it's interesting you guys started with the 11th. I started with the 10th just because I don't know, numerical, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, right, and that's what I thought too. Is like normally I would approach this numerically, but for whatever reason, I just was in the mood to start with 11th Doctor first, and I started thinking about it, and I wondered if maybe the fact is that it's the fact that the 11th Doctor just regenerated, so his regeneration is still fresh, which means that I am not quite ready to let him go. Whereas the 10th Doctor, he's regenerated quite some time ago, and I'm kind of okay with it now. But I just thought it was strange, because shouldn't I be pining for more 10th Doctor more because it's been longer? But that wasn't the way I felt about it. I was like, I want to know what's going on with 11.
Mm-hmm. My feelings didn't come into play at all. It was the order that they were listed in my
on your phone.
On my phone.
That's how you always work.
I know.
I'm like, so what are you reading now? You're like, this, because it's alphabetically, that's what comes next. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I know it drives you insane, but I have to read from the top to the bottom. It's how I go.
A, B, C, D, E!
Yeah. Like, have you read, well, no, I was going to say X-Men, but you were reading All New X-Men, so that was always first.
Yeah.
But I'm all the time like, oh, have you read this issue yet? And you're like, no, I'm only on the B's. Oh.
Yeah, I get stuck on the B's a lot too.
That's why I try not to, like, if I start you on a new series, if I give you a new series, I've learned not to overload you on a new series in case you don't like it, because if you don't like that new series, instead of skipping the series and going to the next comic that you like, you'll get stuck and you'll just stop and you won't read anything. Like, don't do that. Just skip it.
No,
There's been a couple times I took your phone and pulled those comics off there just so you'd move past them.
Oh, the truth comes out.
Oh.
The truth comes out.
I'm pretty sure that's happened.
Well, if you did, you at least didn't pull off the issues I had read, or like the next one or whatever.
At least I did it right because you didn't know.
Yeah.
Speaking of, like, between the 10th and the 11th Doctors, I read the 10th Doctor issue first, but I think I enjoyed the 11th Doctor issue more, and part of it was because of the 11th Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I like the David Tennant Doctor. I like 10th. But in a way, 11 is more fun. Because he'd be more quirky.
I think they did a really nice job on both of them as far as the voice of the Doctor. I think they did a pretty good job of being spot on, but it didn't feel like they involved the 10th Doctor as much.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he was barely in it.
Yeah. He's just kind of wandering around until the very end, and then he does his typical 10th Doctor thing at the end.
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to spoil that, but then you had the 11th Doctor who's doing the typical 11th Doctor thing, but he's like actively involved the entire time. It's like he had as much spotlight time as the new companion, so it was more fun as a companion origin story than the 10th Doctor was. I thought. That's just my thoughts.
I agree. And, okay, without getting into spoilers, but I guess they're minor spoilers, but it's obvious from the beginning. They're both companion origin stories.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's safe to say. And my issue with reading them both, and shouldn't necessarily negatively reflect on either of them, but my issue with reading both of them was you're getting hit with two companion origin stories in a row, and it was kind of like I just want a Doctor story. I just want to get in Doctor Who and go on an adventure, and maybe that's why the 11th Doctor issue was a little bit more fun, because he is more involved. It's less bogged down in the companion origin.
Well, and another thing that was interesting about it is where in the chronology these exist. Mm-hmm. Because I thought it was a really interesting place to put the 10th Doctor and the 11th Doctor. Like with the 11th Doctor, they put him right at the end of season 5 in that little blank space in between season 5 and season 6. and then with the 10th Doctor, you put him smack bang after the end of the 4th season, where he's all depressed and wandering around.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm interested. I guess I'm interested in where they're going to go with that. I mean, because that's a very different 10th Doctor than, say, post Rose Tyler or post Martha.
Yeah, it's right after. That was right after Donna, right?
Yeah. He, at least I think that's what they say. Oh yeah, he even makes a reference. He's like, "Oh, Donna would have really nailed me on that one."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Watching the TV series, I always thought it was odd that Moffat would give the 11th Doctor these huge gaps of time.
Mm-hmm.
But for something like fitting in these extra stories, that works really well, actually, because there's really several places in the 11th Doctor's storyline, I guess you would say, where you could put these long, grand adventures, because he'd disappear for hundreds of years. He'd go off between episodes and be like 200 years older when he came back. With the 10th Doctor, there's not as many places you can fit this stuff in. But you're right about that being an interesting point to use the Doctor, because if you go by the specials, he does like the whole bit with the whole end of, what'd you say that was, the fourth series?
Yeah, 4th season, and then the specials, I think they're referred to as like 4.5 or whatever, but
yeah, that was like a really heavy, dark point.
Yeah,
for him.
He's all like pouty Doctor, a little bit. I mean, like, he's fun. He has fun moments and stuff, but he's just like, my song is coming to an end.
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
I wonder if they'll play on that, or if they were just like, well, that seems like a good point that we can put a bunch of time frame in.
Well, I was gonna say also, as the stories go, the 11th Doctor story wasn't the most upbeat in the world, but the 10th Doctor story does seem kind of dark, and
it is a little bit. You're trying not to spoil things.
Yeah.
There's kind of, and this is one of the things I liked about it, there's kind of a horror aspect.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I enjoyed that a lot.
It reminded me more of Waters of Mars.
Yeah.
Thing. Like that spooky stuff.
Which makes sense, though, if they're going to take it from that angle where, because, was that the first special of, I guess, what you would call 4.5 then? I'm trying to remember, because there's the one where
it's close. It's close to the beginning, because that's one of the first times that like he comes back and there's the Ood and yeah,
that one gets dark.
I can't remember if it's Planet of Death or Waters of Mars that comes first.
But regardless, I think the story suits that period.
Yeah,
thus far at least.
Mm-hmm. Good call.
Thank you.
I didn't think about it like that. A couple gripes about the 10th Doctor #1 issue, the origin story of the companion,
Gabby.
Yeah, it's not bad, but it felt like it just beat you over the head over and over with the same theme of her life, about her, and where she's coming from.
Yeah,
like you get it within like the first dialogue she has. But then you just keep getting it through the whole rest.
Yeah. Like, we've really got to illustrate this. Whereas with Alice in the 11th Doctor, it's kind of glossed over, but you get it anyways. It's like, okay, she's super sad, and that is the whole point of the story a little bit.
Yeah.
And then my other gripe was a little bit the art, because and I understand it's going to happen. Like, you can't necessarily draw, as they would say, on model all the time, but there's a couple panels where the 10th Doctor looks nothing like David Tennant at all.
Right. Yeah, but it's way easier to draw the 11th Doctor. He's so much more of a caricature.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, the 11th Doctor, I didn't have that much issue, but yeah, he's got so much more of an exaggerated cartoony face as it is.
Exactly.
All you have to do is you have to make sure to hit these certain things.
Give him
and
a
you've
big
got
chin
it.
and a, like, you know.
Boy, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did think about that, and, you know, and I'm not saying that art's bad, but there was a couple frames where it really took me out because I was like, that just looks like some random dude. It doesn't look like the Doctor.
And it's got to be hard for Tennant because I didn't feel
more
it
of a
particularly, but he's depicted as, like, the attractive, lovey Doctor, and that's got to be hard to, you know, to pull across in your drawings.
Yeah, because when you try to, like, the 11th Doctor, you can be like, yeah, he's got a forehead and a long face and all this. The 10th Doctor, he's just like a general attractive-looking brown-haired man.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. So I understand that, but it took me out a little bit.
The ironic thing about that is, like, it's funny because we read these, and then I got an Audible story, which only cost like $1 because it was on sale. It was like the deal of the day, and it's read by David Tennant. And I'm listening to this audiobook, and it kind of brought me back to the 10th Doctor era. And I'm like, it's funny that he's Mr. Casanova because he's kind of bristly. Like he always was too.
Mm-hmm.
Like he kind of talks down to people, and you know, I mean, like he's not like I think about the Christmas Invasion story where he's like, "Am I a rude doctor? Oh, I'm kind of rude," you know. And it's like, yeah, he is kind of rude. Why is he so beloved as this like lady killer?
I never understood that, and I'm a lady. I never like. The person who introduced me to Doctor Who, got me into it. I mean, I'd heard of Doctor Who, and I'd probably seen a little bit. But the person who was like, you have to sit down and watch the like rebooted Doctor Who or whatever, or you know, from the Ninth Doctor on, was obsessed with David Tennant. Her and several of her friends, and I'm like, I just don't get it. I mean, I like him; he's a good Doctor. You know, I enjoyed his run, but I don't see him as this, like, gooey, dreamy guy that everybody else seems to for some reason.
Gooey, dreamy guy?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think this episode just got a title.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. That's the best description. Well, it kind of seems like, well, I don't know. I guess from the fangirl perspective, maybe Eccleston isn't a bad-looking guy, but he's not necessarily your typical lady killer type looking guy. Mm-hmm. He kind of looks intimidating, I think.
I would much rather him.
He's got more of a tough guy look.
Yeah.
He looks more like a fighter, not a lover, you know? Mm-hmm. So I guess from a fangirl perspective, then you bring in David Tennant, who's a guy, you know, softer features and whatnot. I guess there'd be the appeal there. And now that you mention it, and this is getting more towards the show and just the Doctor himself, it kind of feels like you've got the Doctor has the 10th Doctor has his attitude. He is kind of a jerk. And he does talk down to people. Mm-hmm. But then you've got the show knows, the fangirls like him. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like the show wants him to be this, but the character's still mainly this. And
yeah,
not that it battles, but it does create that, like, why do the chicks like him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it's just because the show wants the chicks to like him, not, you know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But, and also, to touch on the rudeness, I've thought a lot of the Doctors were rude.
Oh, yeah, most of them are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, you know,
it's kind of looking forward to getting back to that a little bit. You know, like, I think Capaldi will be a little bit rude, and I'm kind of
he better. I want a full-on thick of it. P.O.
You
Doctor.
want their Doctor?
Oh man, that would. I watched the thick of it. I watched all of it. It's really good. Mm-hmm. And on the one hand, I almost wish I hadn't, because now I have this like preconceived idea of who Peter Capaldi is. Not that he's that character, but I know him. I've never known any of the other Doctors really before watching them as the Doctor.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I know what he can do, and I'm almost worried that I'm going to be disappointed because the Doctor doesn't require that level of like intensity.
Yeah.
Like, you can do it. Occasionally the Doctor does get intense, and I love me an intense Doctor. But I don't think Capaldi's going to have to ratchet it up like he can for the Doctor. And I just want to see a ratcheted up, turn to 11 Capaldi all the time.
Yeah, you almost shouldn't have watched that.
Oh, but it was so good.
Now you're gonna have to go back to Fires of Pompeii.
Yeah.
And watch that, because he's like super mellow family man guy in that.
And until Randy started watching that show, and actually I didn't watch much of it. I watched a little bit with him, but he watched the whole thing. I watched a few episodes. But that was my reference for him, and I'm like, because I remembered him when they showed him, and I'm like, hey,
and he was in Torchwood.
He's been and I remembered him from Torchwood. Also.
I remember you commenting on him while we were watching Torchwood randomly, that you liked that guy. You thought he was good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did. And actually, when they announced him as the Doctor, I brought that up. That he had been in the two shows, and I had liked him. So I was really excited for it. But then, when you started watching the thick of it, I'm like, whoa, that's different. I don't know.
yeah.
I mean, not that I didn't like that character. It just didn't strike me as Doctor-like.
He's such a jerk. Isn't even a big enough word for him in that show, but he's so good.
This makes an excellent segue, because they reference that in The Girl Who Loved Doctor Who, because that whole issue is very meta.
Yeah.
And he even makes a reference, like, about Capaldi, within it.
I don't remember the reference.
I don't either, actually.
I read it not too long ago.
I read it a little bit before you.
It's a really quick, almost throwaway little moment. It's right as he's leaving. But, yeah. All
right. So, that's from the IDW 2013 Doctor Who special. I felt like, all right, kids. Well, that's from moving over to this. The Girl Who Loved Doctor Who, written by Paul Cornell, art by Jimmy Braxton. We'll say it's Braxton. Jimmy Braxton.
I liked it.
Yeah?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Super meta and fun. The interesting thing about Paul Cornell is that he is actually he's kind of, I don't know if hated is the right word, but he's kind of I don't know. Here's the thing. He created Scream of the Shalka, which is kind of not canon. It's it involves an alternate ninth Doctor in that whole era of like that decade of nothing between the new series and the Eighth Doctor movie. They tried to keep it going, but it's like it's a long time to have the same Doctor, and so they thought they would kind of do this this web series type of thing. So they do this animated special, which you can get on DVD now, called Scream of the Shalka, where you have this ninth Doctor, and he's kind of dark looking. He's kind of a Dracula looking type character, and so that's the other thing that this Paul Cornell is really known for. And then he got a chance to go ahead and write this, which was the last story of the IDW property run. Or at least that's how they released it.
Yeah.
So there's your facts, kids. Your IMDb facts.
I thought that was. I thought. Who knew? No, I thought this was a good way to end the IDW run of Doctor Who books. And there's a foreword in it, and I actually read it that talks about it. I can't remember more about it, but they basically thought the same thing.
Yeah. And I enjoy anything that any story that becomes self-aware. Always.
Yeah, you like meta stories?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's what this story is all about. If you're not aware, it's basically the Doctor. It's the 11th Doctor. He is pulled through to an alternate universe, which has happened before, except this time the alternate universe happens to be our universe, in which the Doctor Who is a TV series, and a 50-year long running TV series and a pop culture phenomenon and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the setup, and that could go horribly wrong. But you guys liked it, and from what I've heard, it was generally well received. This issue.
You guys liked it. Did you not like it?
I did like it, but what I
tell us more, Randy.
well, I was okay. There's just I don't know why. There's just certain things I was on the fence about. But interestingly enough, it wasn't any of the meta elements. I liked that. I liked when the doctor and this girl who loved Doctor Who, they're looking through the DVDs of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and it's you see the actual covers of the DVDs, and I thought that stuff was cool. What made me chuckle is that at one point he's in her bedroom, and she's a younger girl, I don't know, teenager, young teen, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like tween. Isn't she referred to as a tween?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds right. And at one point, he's in her bedroom, and they're looking through this stuff. And I had this thought. I'm like, well, this is supposed to be the real world, but I had this thought. It's like, if this was the real world, some random strange man is in this young girl's room. As far as I know, her parents know nothing of it. That's a bad situation. But I think they even I think the mom comes home at one point and even comments on it. So they even address that.
Yeah, but real quick, it wouldn't be some random strange dude.
Well,
it would
it's
be
the
Matt,
doctor.
It would be Matt Smith.
Well, for all appearances, it would be Matt Smith.
So,
but that's still weird, though. That'd still be weird.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be like lawsuit.
Yeah. I think what disappointed me was, it had like a moral story, moral to the story type thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a comment on bullying, which is interesting because, they make the that our universe does have monsters, but it's not Cybermen and Daleks. It's,
yeah.
bullies.
Tell it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I didn't mind the bully story, but I don't know what I was expecting. I was just a little disappointed by this bully story.
Mm-hmm.
And without getting into too far spoilers, the way she ends up dealing with the bullies drove me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we can spoil this one or not.
I didn't realize we were doing this one spoiler free since we already.
Okay, we can spoil this.
Oh, I don't care.
It's not even a big.
Are you gonna jump right to the end, Randy?
I am. Well, no. What? Okay, and this is so the doctor gives her some advice, blah blah blah, and she comes up with this plot to deal with the bullies that involves letting the bullies punch her in the face, but she does it in front of an adult so that the bullies get in trouble. But I'm like, what kind of a solution is that? Like, here's a touching bully story. Bullies are bad, blah blah blah. All you have to do is let them punch you in the face.
Yeah, but you're taking it. Okay, I'm okay with that because I think of things on a wider scale. Like if you look at the civil rights movement, or I'm sorry, this is getting serious. Or
okay.
or the
Let's
things like
do
this.
That.
Fighting against someone stronger. The best recourse for you is to keep pushing at them, but not physically, and then you're gonna get beat up and you're gonna get hurt and bad things are gonna happen to you or the people around you. But it's from that happening over and over, and people finally, it's the rest of the world changing its perspective that change actually occurs. So that's really how things would work in real life.
That I did not expect you to take it there.
I'm sorry.
No, it was good.
Yeah, I would agree that it's a very honest, real world kind of it's not how you'd hope things would end, but that's probably one way that it would.
Well, and it makes sense. I mean,
and
she's gonna get punched in the face either way.
Right.
You might as well orchestrate it so that it's the last punch in the face.
Right.
But I'm like, and I understand. Okay, so it's a doctor story, but the point is, it's the real world, and this is, the real world. This is how the real world works. But it's the Doctor. He could have come up with something better.
Yeah,
right?
but then it
he could have reversed the polarity and made the bullies go away.
Well, now was it actually his plan?
I don't think it was.
Plan that she came up with because of her time with the Doctor.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was her plan, inspired by words that he told her.
Yeah, and I think it's good because the whole freaking point of it is this is the real world. We have to find real world solutions for real world problems. And Doctor Who is nice and we all love it, but we have to realize that it's not reality.
It's not the real world. I know.
and so for that episode, I thought it was great. Sorry to disagree with you.
No, it's fine. That's good. Conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that bothered me a little bit, and again, this is most likely how it would play out. It's supposed to be the real world.
Mm-hmm.
I was just slightly disappointed when the Doctor and Matt Smith actually met.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing there. Like, he's like, oh, it's an amazing cosplayer, you look just like me, and that makes sense. But I don't know what would have been better. I can't, suggest,
I like how he lost the lookalike contest, though. Or didn't win it.
That was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
But it was good.
Mm-hmm.
There was just slight things I was disappointed with. Maybe I think I hyped it up too much for myself, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Well, did it win an Eisner, or was it just nominated? Maybe it wasn't even Eisner.
What do they know?
And that's when we lost all credibility as a comics podcast.
Oh, crap. I ruined it for us.
What do the Eisners know?
What do they know? I mean...
What is it? What is an Eisner? Come on.
They didn't ask me. Clearly I had. Well, if it did, I'm going to feel even more foolish. Like I said, it wasn't bad. And there was a lot of funny stuff. What are amusing things in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't I didn't throw it down and be like, oh. But
this book is trash.
This is trash. And
that's how you're going to go out, IDW?
And for that kind of story, it could have went so much worse.
Yeah.
That implies that it was bad. It could have went horribly. Mm-hmm. And it didn't. I think, like I said, I don't know what I would think would be better. There was just certain things I was disappointed in.
Yeah. And it's okay. I mean, there are award-winning movies and I think books that I don't care for. It's your opinion. You're allowed to have your opinion, and it doesn't have to be what everybody else says. Did we lose Jesse?
No.
Okay, it was really quiet over there.
Oh.
No. And I think it makes better conversation, the fact that you aren't totally in love with it.
Yeah, me too.
I would still recommend it, though, if somebody was like, hey, I like Doctor Who, have you heard of this? I'd be like, oh, yeah, read that, because it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Are you making sounds over there? What's going on with you?
Yeah.
You're making faces.
I'm not trying to. I'm feeling some gas.
From your sandwich?
From my sandwich?
Coming through your throat?
Yeah, and I was trying not to let it out.
Don't worry, that's all I do all podcast long is let gas out. Okay. Hot air.
Wow.
Hot air. I should have said hot air.
Gas out.
All right, yeah, there we go. There's nothing else to talk about on that.
Yeah.
That's Doctor Who comics. Boom.
Who is nominated for a Hugo Award?
A Hugo.
I don't know if it actually won it.
Hugo.
I don't even know what that is.
What? A Hugo. Actually, I think that's
I should know what that is, but
that's a science fiction.
Right off the top.
It's a science. I believe. I'm probably wrong, but I believe it's a science fiction award.
Well, that's even better.
Hugo Awards. They'll do literature and I believe even TV shows and stuff, because I think it was a Hugo Award, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'm about to butcher this whole story. But Dan Harmon, creator of Community, they were nominated for a Hugo Award for the Timelines episode. Mm-hmm. And he went to it, and there was this big ceremony, and they had to like learn all this stuff. And at one point, before it was announced, after he'd gone through like this whole ordeal of like, here's what you do if you win, and this and that, rigmarole. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He was disappointed because at one point, not so much about not getting the award, but at one point, one of the organizers come up and they're like, "Oh, I love that episode. It's good, but you're not going to win." And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "Doctor Who, the Doctor's Wife was nominated. That's the one that's going to win."
Oh, yeah.
The Neil Gaiman Doctor Who story, which is, if you're up against Neil Gaiman for a sci-fi anything.
Yeah, no kidding.
So he was like, well, what am I even doing here? But if I'm right, that was the Hugo Awards. So, yeah, I believe it's a science fiction thing.
Looks like the awards happen in August. So it's nominated, but hasn't won.
Oh, okay.
They haven't actually done it yet.
Interesting. What do they know?
It's up against. What do they know? It's up against Saga, though.
Oh,
so that could be tough.
And Saga's.
I don't. Yeah.
Saga's good.
Yeah. And Saga's, like, my impression is it's just storming through everything.
Yeah.
It wins all kinds of awards.
Well, it should.
Yeah. I'm so behind on Saga.
I don't know if I am or not. I read all that.
You might be a couple issues behind, but otherwise you're way farther than I am.
Yeah, well, I read a lot more than you do.
You're on your off time, though.
Huh?
You're on your off time, though.
Yeah, I actually haven't been reading much yet, but I've been watching a lot of anime, and
This is kind of in-house stuff, but the Grawlix Podcast YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Grawlix Podcast. Right now we've been alternating between basically rebroadcasts of the podcast, but it's the podcast in kind of video form. It's not really a video, but it does have chapter skips, which, obviously I want people to listen to the whole show, but I thought it was cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, because we talk for a long time, so if you have like a specific thing that you want to go right to, that makes it super convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And so I've been alternating every week so far for like 9, almost 10 weeks maybe. I've had new videos up, so I've been happy about that. And then if it's not that, it's been the Comics News Roundup, which we've been doing, which is just comics related headlines from the last like 2 weeks that we thought was interesting, and we just brief news show. But we're about caught up. I'm about caught up on where we are on the actual podcasts, which means once we're caught up, after the podcast releases on Monday, the following weekend that episode will go up on YouTube. I'm going to keep Comics News Roundup the second and fourth weekend. And that means we have a weekend opening on YouTube, a slot open, if you will, in the schedule. So one thing me and Melanie were thinking about doing, we're going to basically just have brief. She watches a lot of anime, and I wanted to know like what she might be interested in doing. Mm-hmm. So we recorded one so far. I haven't put it to video yet, but we're watching some anime, and then we're just basically like a brief review. I say brief. That we're aiming for between 5 and 10 minutes. Our first recording session was like 20-something minutes long, but there's a lot I'm going to cut down.
Yeah.
But basically, we're just going to like review some anime and talk about anime. Last night, we just finished watching Elven Lied.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's supposed to be lead or lied. We need to look that up before we actually talk about it. But Elfen Lied, whatever. Yeah.
And the first one we did was Attack on Titan. So basically, we're just gonna. Yeah, we're gonna.
I've heard about Attack on Titan. People are saying it's the anime version of The Walking Dead.
It's very popular. It's very popular.
With good reason. I think it's a really original. Well, nothing's really super
It's a pretty original concept.
It is, and I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. And it does have that Walking Dead, like, you don't know who could go.
Yeah.
Like, there's the potential for death, and you don't know who's going to get it. And that's kind of something that I think drives something like Walking Dead, where it's the unpredictability, and that show definitely has that same type of factor, which is a way better way of putting what I tried to say when we recorded the show. Anyway, so what I want to kind of do is, in a similar fashion, only hopefully looking better than the Comics News Roundup, I want to do us in an anime style, and we'll have these discussions about anime shows and occasionally anime movies, because there's some anime movies I want to watch. And
so we're going to have Chibi Melanie and Chibi Randy now?
Yeah, essentially. But I thought that'd be a fun way to kind of a little bit diversify the material we're putting up there, and also pull in like more of an interest that you have. And I enjoy watching the anime shows too, and we're going to be watching them anyway, so we'll talk about that a little bit.
Cool.
So, unless there's already a show called Animazing, I'm thinking about calling it Animazing.
Animazing. Oh.
And then in the future, there might be other shows I'd like to do. Stuff that would fall within Grawlix.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it. I'm not sure how I got to that, but yeah. So, anime review show.
Yeah. Are you into anime at all, Jesse?
I was into anime a lot more, like in college and in high school. Not that I'm not anymore, just that I haven't really watched. There hasn't been a whole lot that I've been like, I gotta see this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I have been interested in watching Attack on Titan, because I've heard a lot of good things about it.
We watched it on Netflix. I believe Netflix has it. There's one season and Netflix has it.
And I would
it's on my queue, so
I would recommend watching it on Netflix too, because they started doing this new awesome thing where they cut off
the intro.
And it's
so you don't have to listen to the upbeat pop rock anime song every time.
Yeah, it makes it so much better.
Yeah, it'll automatically. I mean, it's not like they actually cut it off, but if you're watching a bunch of episodes in a row, which happens because it's binge watching. That's how we watch TV anymore. We as a people,
you don't need that previously every time.
Yeah, exactly. So Netflix has been pretty cool about, like, when it goes to the next episode, it'll just like jump to just after the intro credits, which is nice. So it kind of speeds the whole process along.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I don't know. Most anime shows that I watch tend to have a really long opening credits song and little,
It's kind of a trait of...
Yeah. And it's my least favorite thing. so I really like that.
So yeah, we watched Attack on Titan, and that was fun, if not... Well, it's melodramatic, but it's still fun. And then we watched Elven Lied, and that was depressing and melodramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, the animes that I kind of watched growing up were kind of the ones that were super popular, because anime wasn't particularly, it's super accessible now, and it wasn't, you had to kind of seek it out, and it was expensive if you could find it. So like the main ones that I saw were the ones that were really easy to find and rent at the video stores. So like Ninja Scroll and Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah, I was gonna say Vampire Hunter D. Yep.
Yeah, Ghost in the Shell, and then Jake and Joe Rui and we got super into the Tenchi Myo series.
Oh yeah, I remember Joe talking about that all the time.
Yeah, we kind of like he had all of the was it called original anime OAV something, I don't know. It's like the original series, and then they had like all these spin-offs, and Joe had the Universe series, and I had the Tenchi in Tokyo series, and then they started throwing them all on Cartoon Network, and I don't know that got any traction on Cartoon Network or not.
Me and Louie and some other people used to cruise around with Joe all the time. And I remember he had, what was the name of the show?
Tenchi Mio. He had like the soundtracks, yeah.
He used to, yeah. That's what I was gonna say. He used to blast that in the car as we're driving around. It was the weirdest experience.
like the funniest thing is, he was over there. He may still be over there. He's in Japan like right now, I think.
Really?
Or just coming back from Japan. So it's kind of funny because he'd like, how he would super get into that culture. He would title his posts with a lot of that. Like how they get super excited in some of their more eclectic television programming. One anime that I'm super interested to find, and this ties back to like our comics kind of thing, the Marvel licensing over in Japan. They had the rights to make a Spider-Man show. And they did, but it's like nothing like our Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's got like a mech that he can summon called Leprodon. And so it's like if you took Spider-Man and meshed it with Power Rangers. So like that's something that I would like to kind of find. I'd like to seek that out. So there's part of me that would really like to see Spider-Man that can summon a spaceship that can transform into a mech.
Yeah, no doubt. That's so funny because that is totally. That's if you were like, okay, I'm gonna take this thing, put it through an anime filter. What do? Add a mech because that's what's in anime.
That's
hilarious. Good stuff.
It is. That's already got off topic again. My bad.
No, well, that kind of became the topic. I think we...
Have you guys seen... there's a guy out there that... It's on YouTube. Have you seen the Doctor Who anime YouTube video?
With the Third Doctor?
Yes.
Yeah. You sent it to me at one point. I thought I made you watch it, Melanie.
Wait, that you could have. I'm drawing a blank right now.
It's just this pretty wild, like, animated... It's pretty long, too.
They basically took sound files from the Third Doctor stuff and then like used it as the audio for his voice.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Okay.
And there's like Cybermen.
Were there two doctors in that?
I think it was just him, but then
the
they had multiple masters.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yep. Yeah, that was cool. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Well, and I think I had seen that before I was super familiar with the Third Doctor. And then I watched it again after, well after going through all the Third Doctor stuff. And I was like, okay, well, the martial arts doctor stuff totally makes sense now.
Yes, yeah. I would love to see more of that. Based on that. If you're like, I wouldn't have thought of all the doctors that I would want to see more like animated Third Doctor. I wouldn't have thought that until I saw this, and then I'm like, yeah, this would be rad.
Speaking of the Third Doctor, so we watched the 5 Doctors for the first time not long ago, and that was something I'd been super excited to get to. It was kind of a little bit of a driving force to get through some of the more difficult 5 Doctor stories.
5th Doctor?
Yeah, 5th Doctor. But off the top of my head, I liked the opening where they have the video, they have the clip of the First Doctor talking. Now, I understand why they had to do it, but I hate that they recast the First Doctor.
Yeah.
The guy wasn't terrible, but I've seen a lot of the First Doctor. It's just weird.
Yeah, that would be the hardest part, I think.
And I understand why they did it. Because they wanted the First Doctor in there. But and I understand why they didn't recast the 4th Doctor, who clearly Tom Baker wasn't available or didn't want to take part in this.
Yeah.
But don't do it. Don't recast it. Don't recast the Doctor. Like, I understand the reason we still have Doctor Who today is because they had to recast the Doctor, but they come up with a clever way around that. But you can't like go back and be like, this is the First Doctor. No, it is. Look at his hair. He's got gray hair.
Yeah.
And he's a little snippy.
Yeah.
And
It's a tough one because he does a good performance, but it is clear. I mean, it's so weird because then you have Carol Ann Ford standing right next to him, and she's like a giant compared to him.
Mm-hmm. I did like, though. Okay, you can tell that the second and third Doctors are much older because this was the 25th.
I believe
20th
so.
or 25th anniversary?
25th or 30th, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
I think it's 25th.
It might have been 30th, now that you mention it. And you could tell that the second and third Doctors were older, but that's okay. They still looked okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they were in their outfits, and, they had wigs, but that's okay, too. But, I enjoyed seeing them.
Yeah.
I love the second Doctor. I really think the second Doctor is one of my all-time favorite. I don't know why. It's just something about him.
Yeah.
I really like him.
Yeah.
It was even fun seeing the third Doctor again. And I only say that because he's one of the. He was a pretty big jerk. He talked down to everybody.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't that bad in this, but so those were the two things that annoyed me. The thing is, I got to see the second Doctor again, and he's great. I got to see Jamie again. Even though it wasn't really him.
When did they bring back Ben and Polly for this too? Who was it that they pulled for the first Doctor?
Let me think. The first Doctor was Susan, I believe.
Yeah, that was the actual.
But they didn't actually. I'm trying to think.
That was just the Daleks, wasn't it? That was their illusion.
Yeah, because and it's not like they didn't pull the Doctor and Susan. Because it would have been after Susan was gone. They pulled the Doctor, and then he come across Susan while they had the Daleks illusion thing going on, which is odd.
Yeah.
But
that wasn't an illusion, though. The Dalek, was it? It blew itself up.
Oh, maybe it wasn't.
They did some little stick it in the corner and it'll shoot itself trick.
Yeah, with mirrors and stuff. But it came out to all you have to do is get behind it and push it around, that type of thing again.
Why are the Daleks the most evil thing in the universe when it's throw a blanket over it, there you go.
Yeah.
They're so easy to thwart in the earlier stuff, at least.
Who did they pull with the second Doctor, then? I'm trying to remember. This may not be an interesting podcast, but I want to know.
I think he ended up with Sarah Jane.
The third Doctor and Sarah Jane.
Oh.
Yeah, the third Doctor got Sarah Jane.
I do that
all
the time. I mix.
Was it Brigadier?
It was the Brigadier.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was the second Doctor and Brigadier.
I was.
Well, Sarah Jane's been with so many of them.
Yeah, I know. But no, I always mix up the second and third Doctor in my head. For some reason, it just seems like... And I know it, I try to stop myself, but I still do it constantly.
Yeah. Well, the third Doctor came in with color, and the second Doctor was always black and white.
Well, that doesn't
But
help.
they also share the Brigadier and that whole unit kind of thing. Plus the three Doctors,
I think
they really solidify that.
I think it's because I think they should go down in age, and the third Doctor seems older than the second Doctor, and so that's just the way it should go. The oldest one is the first one, and then the next is the second, and then the next is the third, and so on.
That's almost the way it seems to work.
Yeah, almost, but it's not quite, and it throws me every time.
Yeah, because now you've got Peter Davison, who's the youngest Doctor to play the role up to that point, and now you're going to go up in age again after him.
So Tom Baker, and I like that they worked out a way that he played a role in it in the plot, in that for some reason he got stuck when they were trying to take him, and the reason they were able to do all that was because that Doctor was stuck, and if he became unstuck, well then it wouldn't work. So hopefully he stays stuck in this in this 80s video transition thing going on.
Yeah. When that footage is actually from Shada.
Yeah.
Which is the missing episode, or the episode they didn't finish.
Yeah, we have a version of that where they cut together what they have, and then I don't remember if it's by episode or if occasionally it just cuts away to Tom Baker and it looks like it's from the 80s. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's an older Tom Baker, and he's talking about,
what happens in the missing scenes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which was good fun.
Yeah, I've got the DVD for that, too.
Yeah. So we had seen that before we seen the Five-ish Doctors reboot,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't realize that so I knew they took that footage from Shada or Shaba,
Mhm.
Shada, but I didn't realize they specifically took like that weird time scoop thing footage from the Five Doctors.
Five Doctors.
Yeah.
That's what was, and then the what was it, the his voice message, his voicemail greeting was I'm trapped in a time loop.
I mean, at least they try to still work like the character as a plot point in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've heard some people say they're not super thrilled about the Five Doctors, like the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought it was, it was fun. It was just an excuse to like, let's bring these doctors and companions, and we're just, what are we going to do? Well, we'll just have them, we'll throw them in a desert, and they got to try to get to this castle, and it's just kind of an excuse to have them on screen for a while.
Yeah.
And I
It's
thought
kind of a convoluted plot, and it's really hard to put that many doctors together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the scenes where they are together, pretty awesome, pretty magical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it worked,
Mm-hmm.
and it was fun.
There were a lot of things I liked about it. I already referenced earlier the little
Yeah, the
guard
Raston
robots.
robot.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, that was from that, because the Third Doctor and Sarah Jane were
Yeah.
hiding from him. Yeah.
I didn't necessarily like, just because they've done it so many times, the like political strife in freaking Gallifrey.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
whatever, they have to have some way to get in there.
I think that is forever kind of an ongoing disappointment with me and the series in general.
Mm-hmm.
Having, and I guess if you started just at the beginning, you might feel that still. But going from like the new series where there's no Gallifrey, he talks about Gallifrey sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start the classic series and you actually get to Gallifrey, it's always just political struggle. Anytime they go to Gallifrey,
I know.
which makes sense that the Doctor's not into that junk, and it makes sense that he's always trying to get away.
Mm-hmm.
But it is kind of disappointing as a viewer that anytime you get back to this like magical Gallifrey, or if you want to look at it like this horrible place where Doctor's always trying to escape from, it's disappointing that it is just old British guys arguing politics. And
Yeah. But what I do like, which is kind of part of the reason I brought it up, other than, not just to naysay, but I do like that, again, they tried to make the Doctor president. And I'm like, he could rule the Time Lords.
But he doesn't want it.
I don't know how many times this is now that he could have, but he doesn't want to do it. And I love that.
Yeah, every time he's always trying to escape from that. If either like something bad happens, he's trying to get, even when it's not something bad, it's good. He's potentially good. He's the president. Runs away.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you're in charge. I'll be back.
Yeah. I thought what happened to what essentially became the bad guy, I thought that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
With the I mean, it was also like he should have seen it coming.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I thought it was it was particularly the effect of like, the face coming through the they had that body on.
When the funny thing is, like, I had seen the Five Doctors. I had gone back to get the Five Doctors after I had seen, was it the End of Time?
Oh yeah.
Where we see Rassilon in their chambers, the Time Lord High Council and their plans and whatnot, and so when I see Rassilon in the Five Doctors, he's got that epic red mustache. I'm like, whoa, it's just absolutely not what I was expecting. And I should know better because the Time Lords regenerate, of course, but it was like, whoa.
Well, and that was, I mean, it's just something I'm going to have to deal with, but I get really confused about Rassilon and the whole beginning of the Time Lords mythology stuff. I'm like, okay, so is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? What's all this? There's all these different weird things that get added in all the time, and it's hard for me to keep track of it sometimes. in my head. But that's what's gonna happen,
Yeah,
I guess.
hard to explain Rassilon, because he does kind of bounce back and forth between being that super legendary hero and not necessarily doing what we would consider morally right.
Right.
The time scoop itself, the effect, what a bizarre thing. Like, just the way it looks, this like spinning triangle bugle comes down and sweeps him away.
It's like they put him in the Phantom Zone, a la Christopher Reeve.
Yeah. One thing I found interesting rewatching the 50th anniversary special was it's not a time scoop, and they don't call it the time scoop, but the portal opens up between like the three doctors and the Fez comes through and all that. The portal itself has a very time scoop look. It doesn't move around or anything, but it's a triangular type thing, and it's got that like it's kind of like the time scoop looks like a see-through cloth. Like a kind of a white see-through cloth that spins around, and that's totally the look the portal has in the 50th anniversary. And I'm willing to bet.
I wonder if that was a nod.
Yeah, that would be my guess. And I don't remember what they call it. It's not a time scoop because it doesn't scoop anything up. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And as far as the two go, I preferred the 50th.
You preferred the 50th over the Five Doctors?
I did. But then again, it had a lot more doctors to love going on in there, so.
In what?
In the 50th.
Oh, yeah?
And the fourth was actually there. And it was like one of my favorite parts was the end with him.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
museum.
That's so funny, isn't it? That Tom Baker's not going to be... He's not around for the Five Doctors, but the 50th anniversary special, he's the one classic Doctor that makes it. Well
I was wondering if it was because he wasn't in the previous one that they were like, well, we'll let him be in this one then.
It kind of seems like...
Or if it's just because everyone loves him because he's awesome.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's got a lot of fans.
I don't know the history of it. My guess is he was the Doctor for a long time and then was like, I'm done with this or whatever.
Yeah, he kind of put some distance between himself and Doctor Who for a long time.
And it seemed like more recently, my impression was that he started doing the audio plays, which are great, by the way. All the Fourth Doctor ones that I've listened to have been pretty good. But it seems like he started doing the audio plays, and I want to say I heard that initially there was trepidation on his behalf. He, if he wanted to do it, so he'd give one a try, and ended up enjoying it. So they're doing more, and I wonder if maybe that's kind of what helped open him back up to like, maybe I'll do this Doctor Who thing again,
Yeah.
But he's great in the 50th.
He still has that mischief about him.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He's got. Just the exchange he has, like he still comes across as the same Doctor. And he's got the same weirdness and kind of manicness, and it's really it's really good.
Yeah, I like it.
And that's the Doctor. They even say it, like they jokingly back and forth like talk around so that like the fans like, well, who is he? What is he? Blah blah blah. It's the Doctor.
Well, and I've heard a lot of interesting theories on that. Like, I don't know, like what, one of the theories that I just thought was really interesting was that, like, what they did may have caused it so that each of his regenerations could continue on in some form. I mean, it's one of those weird, out of left field theories, but it was like, huh. Because they went ahead and saved Gallifrey and rewrote time and essentially created some sort of a paradox, does that open it up so that these other regenerations can go on? But at the same time, they also just allude to the fact that maybe he'll go back to being the Fourth Doctor again just because he can. Like, if you go back to, like, Romana, like certain Time Lords are really good at their regenerations. Like Ramona could just try on new faces.
Yeah.
Which is regenerated. It's like he's never been good at it. He's never liked regenerating, and he's never gotten a handle on it. But that's not to say that maybe he wouldn't. I mean, he's got a whole nother cycle of regenerations now that he can play with. So when you regenerate that many times, you got a lot of practice.
Yeah.
Visit some old faces.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say also, with John Hurt, I was concerned how it was going to go. It was going to be
Just
too...
Like how they were going to work him in? Or
well, yeah, how they were going to work him in and how dark it was going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I mind dark. I like dark, but, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor, you want it to be happy. It's
Well...
but they did it really well. It all worked for very good.
The possible darkness. Well, they throw the in the 50th. They throw the three doctors, like when they're all together. It's brilliant. Like it's so fun, and the writers I think have a chance to poke fun at the show itself, and
they do, and it's great.
Oh yeah, and there's just great little things. And John Hurt, I mean, he's in it a lot, but obviously he doesn't have much time as a doctor, you know, in the show. But just little things like when he first comes across 10 and 11, and he's like, you know, figure out you guys are me, blah blah blah. He goes, and Matt Smith and David Tennant stand there, and he goes, "You're me, both of you?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then he like
even that one?
Yeah, exactly. He turns slightly away from Matt Smith and looks at Tennant. He's like, "Even that one?" And it's just the way he delivers it is perfect.
Well, it's funny because like it's almost like I think that part was originally written for Eccleston, but it's so perfect to have this War Doctor because even though he's completely the construct of New Who, you know, like the modern era of Doctor Who, he acts as this beautiful bridge between classic Who and modern Who. Even though he's a modern Doctor, he's you know, like he has that classic Doctor vibe about him, where it reminds me of the way that Hartnell reacted to Pertwee and Troughton in The Three Doctors. I mean, it's very reminiscent of that kind of interaction, like, oh, a dandy and a clown.
Oh yeah. They even kind of like, because he ends up with names for them. Well, one comes from Matt Smith, but Sandshoes, and I can't remember what he calls.
Sandshoes, Chinny, and Granddad.
Yeah, it's really good. I just realized I've been trying to slowly turn up my headphones, and I've been turning Melanie's up instead. And I was like, why isn't Jesse getting louder? You're probably about blowing out Melanie's eardrums now. You all right?
Yeah, when I pointed at myself, you're like, oh, like you want me to turn yours up?
Yeah,
I was trying to be like, no, you keep turning mine up.
Okay, so I went to turn up my headphones, and I turned it up a little bit, and then she's like pointing at her, and I'm like, oh, you need it up louder too? So I turned the dial up that I thought was her, and mine got louder. I was like, oh whoops.
Oh.
Okay.
Sorry.
I mean, it is. I'm going to turn it down just
okay,
a smidge,
the new setup has so many dials.
That's like the third time you've turned mine up.
I know, and I'm like, why isn't Jesse getting louder? I keep turning my headphones up. I thought I was on that channel. Anyway, I like the plot line from the 50th anniversary. I think it's pretty good. Like, there was a lot of hype for it, obviously, and it lived up to it for me.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't disappointed at all.
I wonder how many years of life Moffat lost writing this.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's practically pitch perfect. I mean, anybody that has super big things to nitpick about it, I don't know why. You know, like I feel like they're just being contrary because it's so airtight in a lot of respects.
And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and I'm really glad because, I like a lot of the stuff that's come about through Moffat's
era. On the show, yeah.
But there's been so many times when they build these things up to be these big grand things, and then they kind of fall short.
Flat,
And I was like, I really don't want to be disappointed by this. And that's, another part of I'm like, with the John Hurt thing, I'm like, I don't know how that's going to work. But yeah, I was so happy that it ended up being as great as it was.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because like Moffat, it's strange because it's like as Moffat's writing started to deteriorate throughout his, I don't want to say that it got worse, but it feels like sometimes it got worse. As it was super solid in season 5. Not to say that everything about season 5 was great, but like season 5 he started super strong. It was a totally new direction, which not everybody loved, but a lot of the writing was really good, and Matt Smith was kind of getting his footing in that first season. As it went on, Moffat's writing did not improve, but Matt Smith's acting did, and started to carry the show a little bit. Like it's like you forgave some of the horrible mistakes in writing because Matt Smith somehow could pull it off.
Yeah,
and I think a part, and this is I don't want to try to turn it into like pile on Moffat all of a sudden after we just praised him for this, but part of it is like falling back, like you find something that kind of works or that people seem to enjoy, and then you just fall back on it over and over until like it's just sickening, like just a certain attitude or just certain things within the show that it seems like you just fall back on over and over again.
Like Daleks that have been destroyed entirely 14,000 times and keep coming back.
That's not totally Moffat's fault either.
No, I know. It happened way before him. It just...
Yeah. But, yeah, a little bit.
And I like Daleks anyway. It just annoys me that they try to play it off like it's the end of them. Just don't even try, because it's not going to be.
Yeah. Well, and the Moffat era with Matt Smith has been kind of punctuated with this theme of almost being a fairy tale, and it sounds like now the Capaldi stuff is going to be more about the consequences of things than that whole fairy tale ending, which I'm pretty excited to see.
Me too. At times I didn't mind, like it was clear when 11 came on, and apparently only America got the intro before the actual intro with Amy Pond talking. They really pushed this like fairy tale feel to the show. Sometimes I liked it, and then other times I just didn't care for it. It's like just back off of that a little bit,
Yeah.
Because it feels like at times they'd almost use it to like as an easy out, like to jump. Not jump a shark, but like to like, well, how do we get out of this corner? Oh, well, let's do this. Well, isn't that a bit much? It's a fairy tale,
Speaking of sharks, a really good illustration of that is like the difference between the two Christmas specials, the Christmas Carol special, and which literally has a shark in it, and the next one, which I have not gone back to watch because I don't particularly enjoy it all that much.
Is that
which was with the wardrobe? It was the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe knockoff. As far as the title,
I might have to actually rewatch that one because people do not like it, and I remember enjoying it. But I
enjoyed it on the first go around, but it's kind of like when you watch Avatar. It's like you enjoy it on the first go around, and then you start thinking about it.
Okay, yeah.
And you're like, there's well, I've got a tap that runs only lemonade, and it's like on one hand you're like, okay, that's kind of an 11th Doctor thing, and it's kind of just dumb.
It's just too...
Like I can't tell which one it is.
That's actually a pretty good example of what bugs me about... it happens off and on all throughout New Who, but what bugs me about Moffat's era specifically, overly cutesy at times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can have fun moments, and it can be cutesy once in a while, but, like, too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited. I'm glad that hopefully the with the new Doctor, with Capaldi, it'll be less of that fairy tale feel, because I'm ready for some... we'll never get a really dark Doctor, but that's just the way I am. I want a dark everything. I want a dark Doctor Who, but it's not going to happen. And I'm fine with that, because that's not really Doctor Who. But I want, like, a harder science fiction Doctor.
Yeah, that's part of my beef with it all, too, is you can go anywhere in space and time, and they choose to go to, like, this...
Fantasyland.
Go to more awesome places and do more awesome things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I want to...
Mm-hmm. It's almost like they pushed that more in the classic series with the limited technology that they had.
Yeah.
And yet now, where does the Doctor go throughout the Russell T Davies and Moffat run? They wind up on an awful lot of spaceships.
Yeah.
a lot of spaceships, a lot of space stations. They go to Earth in the future a lot.
And awful lot of Victorian age London too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which they even made I'm not sure what episode, but they even make a crack about that at some point. But I'm like, yeah, but okay, maybe they have a lot of sets laying around because there tends to do a lot of, like, period pieces.
Yeah.
BBC tends to do a lot. It seems like they tend to do a lot of period pieces, and they're good at it. They have the scenery,
Yeah.
But stop it.
Well, now they have a reason because they have cast members. They've got the gang. They've got Strax and Vastra and Jenny. So, like, now they have this reason to go back there. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Doesn't mean they have to.
I guess there's a story penned where they will be involved with the new Doctor, which might be interesting to see how he gets on with Strax and Vastra, and that could be interesting.
I could be wrong, but I want to say I want to say they're supposed to be in the first episode.
Yeah.
Wow.
I could be wrong. There's people that know though, because those scripts leaked.
Yeah.
I don't want to know, so don't tell me if you find out.
I don't know anything.
Oh.
That is one thing, though. The BBC and Moffat have said it in the past when that one Doctor Who special was released on DVD and sent out before it actually aired. In general, the Doctor Who fans, like, they'll get this leak stuff. Mm-hmm. They're really good about not giving out spoilers. Mm-hmm. And Moffat and them in the past have been like, well, thanks. That's, you guys are great. Don't spoil it for everybody. And yeah, they are. Like, it's...
Yeah. I haven't run into any spoilers whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, if the show's already ran, if it's aired, you got to be careful. But in terms of, these leaks and stuff, you have to search it out if you want to find it. Otherwise, it's not common just to come across it. And I'm glad.
Yeah. And I was going to say real quick about the leaked stuff. Okay, like the one guy who left a script in a taxi. It's a dumb mistake and whatever, but stuff happens. But yeah, like the what is it, 5 or 6 other ones? Yeah, they need to like fire everybody who works at that location because I think that they did done on purpose.
That actually happened.
Well, yeah,
got fired.
Well, they should because that's ridiculous.
Yeah, have you heard the deal with that at all, Jesse?
I've heard snippets of it. I've heard that they cleaned house, but I've also heard that there's like even some rough cut, like actual video out now of some of those. Like not with like effects added in or anything. And the worst part is, isn't it all coming from America?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was like a Latin American affiliate set up
In Miami, right?
Yeah, I think it was Miami. So it was an American affiliate. And yeah, it was scripts and video files were transmitted over there, sent over there, and intercepted somehow. And initially they're like, well, they're encrypted, they're not going to be able to unencrypt them. But they did unencrypt them.
Why would you ever assume that they're not going to be able to unencrypt them?
Yeah.
In this day and age,
Exactly.
Really?
Exactly. Like, they were probably intercepted by people who could do your job better than you and transmit stuff without getting intercepted. You know, they're going to be able to figure out how to crack these video files.
No, this is Doctor Who. They need to take this seriously and send like a guy with a briefcase handcuffed to himself to take this stuff over.
It's like the was it J.K. Rowling, the way that she would travel with these Harry Potter scripts or whatever, like under lock and key.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
I think that's about all I got. I thought there might be something else, but I think that might be about it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, the 50th is kind of hard to review because it's, you know, what can we say that hasn't been said?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to be really critical about something that's so airtight, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say if we wanted to, I could probably continue talking about Doctor Who all night, but
yeah,
let's not.
Yeah.
I'll be interested. I think the next Fifth Doctor that you guys get is you're going to see the return of a villain from Third Doctor.
Oh, really?
Which yeah. So I'll be interested what you think of the next one. It moved a little slow for me, but at the same time, it's with the entire Fifth Doctor era. You have to like take a step back and then look at what's actually happening, and then it's almost more epic when you realize, like when you take a look at it, like you remove yourself from it, like the whole Terminus episode.
The way you put that was great, and I was like, now that you mention it, that's like the greatest thing ever.
It becomes super epic, and there are moments in this next episode that you guys are going to watch. I think it's called Warriors of the Deep or whatever.
Oh yeah, we just we just started that.
So have you seen? So you've got the reveal on what the bads are.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I think we're 1 or 2 episodes into that one.
There is in that serial. There's a creature in there that is like the biggest gaffe as far as like unbelievable monsters.
Is it the big? Maybe we're a little further. Is it a big?
No, maybe you've seen quite a
dinosaur-looking type thing almost.
Wait.
Yes.
That breaks through the door.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
and the door falls on the door falls on what's her face? Is Tegan still there?
Yeah.
Tegan and Turlo are still around.
Yeah.
When does Tegan go away? I am not a Tegan.
I think it's coming up. I don't want to tell you for fact.
Yeah, that's fine. But
we thought we'd gotten rid of her, but we were wrong.
No.
I'm pretty
It's
sure.
funny that you guys have kind of disdain for her because she's like fairly well loved.
Really?
Oh,
Yes.
I don't see why.
She's got a lot of love in the classic fandom for whatever reason.
Oh,
Braveheart Tegan. Braveheart.
That's so.
But yeah,
weird.
no, I've never totally gotten the appeal for her either.
Although I don't know, the community reacts to certain characters oddly, and you know that's a weird thing to say, I guess. It's like almost separating me out of it, but like the general. When I was at that panel I mentioned earlier at Britishfest, and the guy was going through companions, he come to Dodo, and when he came across her, it got a laugh, and I don't know, maybe it was just her name, but it it got a laugh, and I was like, I liked Dodo. I was really disappointed that she just went away because she was, I don't know, she was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
She had a fun name, but like she was just like some chick that stumbled across him. I don't know. I like Dodo. I thought she was interesting, but
yeah, I remember you going on about it a little bit. You're like, she's quirky and fun.
I like Dodo, and she was barely there, but she got a laugh, and I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "What? People don't like Dodo?"
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, let's wrap this up with a bow.
Do it.
With a bow.
With a bow. Everybody, go to grawlixpodcast.com to listen to this. Listen to new episodes. Email us. We want to hear your words. We have no emails. So letters at grawlixpodcast.com. And that's and
how can people get this podcast if they're not just getting it off of the website, Mr. Randy?
You're good. If you're not if you're listening to this on the website, or maybe you're just hearing this on YouTube, grawlixpodcast.com, you can get the RSS feed, and you can throw that into most like audio player applications on your computer. Will download those. But the simpler option would be to go to iTunes and search up the Grawlix Podcast, or go to our website and hit the link, or you can listen to us on Stitcher at Stitcher.com and search us up there, or also hit the link from the website. I want to say there's another way you can get us. Oh, Mixcloud. I think I'm putting us on Mixcloud. Mixcloud.com. We're on there too. You listen to us all kinds of places.
Hey, speaking of listening to us, in the last episode we mentioned that you might have an album coming out.
Oh, holy crap. Nice. This is the episode of segues. I'm glad you mentioned it. For us here in the past, tomorrow is July 30th, and that is when my album will be released. But for you in the future listener, the album will be out. I put out an album. The artist title I work under is Control Alt Destroy. Don't spell it how it sounds. And the album, it's an EP called Redeemer. It's like I guess the best way to sell it to what I would assume is our target audience would be, it's like a 80s science fiction movie soundtrack. It's got that, it's synthesizer heavy. I took a lot of influence from stuff like Terminator. In fact, we were just talking about Doctor Who, there's been a lot of like, the 80s was real iffy when it comes to music. The 80s Doctor Who music goes both ways. There's times when it makes me cringe, but there's sometimes, like the Five Doctors specifically had some really good like synthesizer score in it. Mm-hmm. If you like something like that, you might want to check it out, because I definitely took influence from that type of stuff too.
Blade Runner for sure. I love, it's those specifically, I mean, it'd be horror movies too, but specifically usually science fiction movies and TV shows from when you were a kid. Well, when we were kids anyway. Mm-hmm. In the 80s into the 90s, because then you had the VHS explosion when all those 80s movies were still cycling through. It's a lot of nostalgia and takes influence from all that stuff. It's got that sound. And you can get that if the simplest way is to go to electronicmusiciansgroup.com. Right on the front page, it'll have a link to it. You can click music, and you can go there to listen and download it. It should, by the time you're listening to this, should be on iTunes. You can check it out on iTunes, Google Play, and you can get the digital download on Amazon.com. I won't have the physical CDs ready just yet, but if you are still rocking a physical medium, like they might back in the 80s. If you're
gonna make a mixtape,
yeah. If you're still rocking that, I will have physical CDs on Amazon before too long. Just not yet. I wanted to do the digital first, and then maybe prepare a little bit different packaging for the physical. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Because there are, like, and it was before I was working on this specifically, but there's, all through Doctor Who, it's almost always synthesizer score in the old stuff from the 60s till where we're at in the show, the 80s. And like I said, like, there's not a lot of middle ground. Occasionally there'll be that like that goofy sounding stuff where it's a little cringeworthy. But then occasionally there, especially certain episodes, I don't know if it's different composers they'd have work on it, but like sometimes their musical score will just hit me. They'll hit like this really cool synthesizer tone or creepy tones. And actually the Doctor Who, I hate to go on about this, the Doctor Who theme itself is a pretty big influence because it was like a milestone for electronic music. Mm-hmm. It was the way they came up with the original Doctor Who theme song.
It's early electronica, isn't it?
Yeah, it hadn't really been done like that before, and in a way, it's like an early version of how we sample and sample music and use samples in a sound engineering style way in a lot of modern electronic music. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
when the music becomes almost like a character
mm-hmm.
Throughout, and they just recently put out like a huge box set of music through Doctor Who.
Yeah, I heard about that. I'd be interested to check that out. But yeah, cool. There you go. Check that out. Mm-hmm. Check it out.
So how do we segue into our outro?
How do we segue into the outro?
This is Melanie, and I love the smell of Grawlix in the morning.
What does Grawlix smell like?
Hubert rage.
This is Randy. It's your Grawlix, Marty. Something's got to be done about your Grawlix.
And this is Jesse. I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it just keeps getting funnier every Grawlix time I see it.
Thank you for listening to the Grawlix Podcast. The Grawlix Podcast is a production of Electronic Media Collective and Vorpal Arrow Studios. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. To hear more, visit GrawlixPodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook at Facebook.com/GrawlixPodcast and like us on Twitter, Twitter.com/GrawlixPodcast.
Can I see your phone?
Yeah. You can see my phone. You gonna look something up? Look a quote
Yep.
up? Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to look up something specific, but your phone's slow.
It is. Well, it's not on the Wi-Fi either because our Wi-Fi sucks.
Yeah.
I need to figure out how to set up a static IP. It's just that sounds hard.
We need to take advantage of the
Cox thing.
Yeah.
Upgrade our modem.
The dual band modem. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means the battery's dying. Oh, my phone.
That's the after credits clip right there.
Yo,
what does that mean? The battery's dying.
Oh man.